Chapter 1364, The Second Heaven. Chapter 1364, The Second Heaven. Only an ordinary disciple? Jian Wushuang felt overwhelmed. Only an ordinary disciple would already be that strong. Just how strong are the disciples of Star Palace? What is the disciple going to do with the Meta Beast? Jian Wushuang asked. Meta Beast is a strange existence derived from the Milky Way. It is extremely intelligent and it contains an enormous amount of meta strength. The usage of meta strength is extensive. It could be used to make pills, make a weapon, aid cultivation of secret skill. Besides, meta strength is extremely nourishing for one's consciousness, Lei Chao said. As such, the disciples from lineage of Star often capture the Meta Beast in the Milky Way to extract the meta strength from their bodies for cultivation. After extracting their meta strength, they would release the Meta Beast. The meta strength in the Meta Beast's bodies would recover over a period of time. I see, Jian Wushuang nodded. Let's go. Lineage of Star's old lair is right ahead. Lei Chao continued to move forwards with Jian Wushuang and they soon arrived before Lineage of Star's old lair. Looking at the majestic palace that stood before him, along with the large amount of buildings above the stars, Jian Wushuang was astonished. Lofty. Magnificent. It was definitely one of the loftiest sects Jian Wushuang had ever seen. How many forces could place their old lair within the Milky Way in the entire eternal chaotic world after all? Jian Wushuang, follow me. Lei Chao led Jian Wushuang towards one of the stars. He intentionally detoured from the buildings on the way. It seemed that he didn't want anyone to see Jian Wushuang and himself. In the stars, there was a huge cave dwelling which was formed entirely with special crystals. Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang walked into the cave dwelling. The moment they entered the cave dwelling, Jian Wushuang immediately saw the long-haired middle-aged man who sat on the stone bed like a statue before him. The long-haired middle-aged man had a natural manner. Yuan. Lei Chao spoke softly. The long-haired middle-aged man, who was like a statue, slowly opened his eyes and a ray of purple light flashed like a purple gemstone. You have returned. The long-haired middle-aged man looked at Lei Chao, then at Jian Wushuang. This is the young man, Jian Wushuang, who passed the test that the palace master set up personally and became the disciple of Star Palace. Lei Chao nodded and introduced, Jian Wushuang, the person before you is one of the 3 Hall Masters in Lineage of Star. You can call him Hall Master Yuan. In the Lineage of Star, the Palace Master and the other 2 Hall Masters are mostly cultivating in seclusion. Any matters will be decided by Hall Master Yuan. Greetings, Hall Master Yuan. Jian Wushuang bowed politely. Young man, there's no need to stand on ceremony. The long-haired middle-aged Hall Master Yuan smiled and said, Lei Chao sent me a message earlier and I already reported it to the Palace Master. The Palace Master told me to bring you to see him directly when you arrive in Lineage of Star. Follow me. See the Palace Master? Jian Wushuang was surprised. The Palace Master of the Lineage of Star was the founder of the Lineage of Star. He was the superior existence in the peak of the eternal chaotic world. The superior existence wanted to see him. Jian Wushuang, well done. You have been summoned by the founder of Lineage of Star. The other experts, including many real gods, didn't even stand a chance to meet him, but you get to see him the moment you step foot in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Tiske, King of Venomous Worms teased. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly, but he followed Hall Master Yuan. As for Lei Chao, he stayed back in the cave dwelling instead of following them. In the depth of the boundless Milky Way, there was a cave dwelling. The cave dwelling merged into one with the Milky Way. If it didn't reveal itself actively, no one would notice the existence of the cave dwelling. Then, Hall Palace Yuan brought Jian Wushuang before the cave dwelling. The 2 of them didn't enter the cave dwelling but stood outside. Hall Master Yuan bowed slightly at the cave dwelling and said, Palace Master, I brought the young man with me. An ancient yet thick voice broke the silence. The voice traveled lightly as though it was from far, far away. Young man, you're the one who passed through the test that I left in the Star Foggy Sea? The founder of the Lineage of Star asked. Yes, Jian Wushuang replied politely. As expected, the founder of the lineage of stars sounded melancholy. Star Foggy Sea, it has been so many years. Not long after I created Star Foggy Sea, I lost it at that place. I thought no one would ever find it, nor would there be anyone who could pass the test there. Who knew you would pass through it successfully in the end, and you even found Lineage of Star on your own. Very good. Hearing what the founder of Lineage of Star said, Jian Wushuang was shaken. Which place? Star Foggy Sea. You kept it with you or you left it in your hometown? The founder of Lineage of Star asked. I left it at my hometown, Jian Wushuang replied. That's good too. The founder of Lineage of Star kept quiet for a while before he spoke again. Your identity as an inverse cultivator, I already know. Inverse cultivator? It is really rare. Ever since I started Lineage of Star, I have never gotten any disciple that did inverse cultivation. You're the very first. Inverse cultivation, great potential. Once you pass the inverse cultivation test in the third heaven, you're destined to go right to the top, and the possibility of becoming an almighty is very high. However, the route for inverse cultivation isn't an easy journey. I already made some arrangement for you after I received Yuan's message. Your identity as an inverse cultivator shouldn't be exposed or publicized before you become an almighty or before you stand on the peak of the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Can't expose my identity as an inverse cultivator before I become an almighty. I refined a treasure for you in the past few days. Take it. In the cave dwelling, a ray of black light spurted out and Jian Wushuang extended his hand to take it. He spread his palm and saw that it was a black bead that gave out a mysterious aura. This bead has just been refined. I have yet to name it. You can name it yourself. After you refine it, it will blend into your divine body. After that, there will be a tremendous change in your aura. You are just a universe god in the first heaven now. However, after you refine the bead, your aura will improve to the level of a universe god in the second heaven. You will then look pretty much like an ordinary universe god in the second heaven. Besides, the bead will cover your soul power. When you are fighting with the others, you can still use soul attacks. With the bead, even an almighty who hasn't reached my level, or an almighty who purely studies the soul won't be able to understand your actual situation. From today onwards, you must remember you are not a universe god in the first heaven but the second heaven. Chapter 1365, Disciple from the Star Palace. Chapter 1365, Disciple from the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang felt surprised about the reminder of the creator of the Lineage of Star. That is to say, he had to pretend to be a universe god in the second heaven. At the same time, he was supposed to cultivate and improve his power, just like a universe god in the second heaven. After he passed the inverse cultivation test and became a real universe god in the second heaven, he would have to pretend to be a universe god in the third heaven. Yuan, please take care of him. You should especially remember that during his inverse cultivation test, no one can be present except you and Lei Chao. Yes, Your Majesty. Hall Master Yuan nodded. Now you can leave. As the conversation ended, everything in the heaven fell into silence and the palace disappeared from Jian Wushuang's eyes. You are quite lucky to get a treasure cultivator from our master in person. Hall Master Yuan smiled to Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang held the black bead in his hands and started to absorb the power within it. When he finished, Jian Wushuang could feel clearly that his breath and power had changed. Now, even I can't imagine that you are just a universe god in the first heaven. Hall Master Yuan smiled. Jian Wushuang was relieved. As the master said, I should keep my identity as an inverse cultivator hidden. And with this black bead, I'll definitely be able to disguise myself as a universe god in the second heaven, in terms of both my divine power and overall strength. Jian Wushuang was satisfied. Then he returned to the palace of the Hall Master Yuan. Lei Chao was still waiting there. What? Lei Chao was shocked when he saw Jian Wushuang again. Why has he become a universe god in the second heaven? Hall Master Yuan then explained what happened to Lei Chao. Now I know why. But Lei Chao frowned and said, "It is a good idea. But it will be difficult for you when you pretend to be one in the second heaven." Jian Wushuang was confused by Lei Chao's words. Hall Master Yuan told Lei Chao, "Please take care of him and help him in his second inverse cultivation test." Lei Chao nodded and didn't refuse. After leaving Hall Master Yuan's place, Lei Chao took Jian Wushuang around the numerous buildings in the lineage of stars. Along the way, Jian Wushuang met many disciples from the lineage of star. They felt surprised when they saw Jian Wushuang. "Who is that universe god in the second heaven?" "I have no idea. But he is the disciple of the Star Palace." "Wow, a new one." Every disciple from the lineage of Star had their own token that showed their identity as an ordinary disciple or as one from Star Palace. Those ordinary ones could tell that the token of Jian Wushuang came from the Star Palace. That was why they knew Jian Wushuang's identity even though they didn't know him. Jian Wushuang could feel that disciples were looking at him with envy and admiration. "Why do they envy me? Is there a great difference between an ordinary identity and one from the Star Palace?" Jian Wushuang was curious. Lei Chao didn't answer his question. Instead, he said, "As you are going to spend a long time here, it is necessary that you know about the cultivation resources in the lineage of Star." Jian Wushuang listened to Lei Chao attentively. He was eager to know what valuable resources the lineage of Star had as the top leader of the Purple Moon Sanctuary in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Lei Chao started introducing them to Jian Wushuang. "Our lineage of Star has a long and brilliant history, and so we have accumulated numerous resources. For disciples of Universe God level, the most valuable ones are Real God Hall, Scripture Depository, and Reset Palace. Among these three, Real God Hall is the top, but only Universe Gods in the third heaven are allowed to use it. Though you are in inverse cultivation, you are still not eligible to enter until you pass the second round of the inverse cultivation test and become a real universe god in the second heaven. Scripture Depository is home to the 4 great secret skills in the lineage of Star, which are the foundation of our lineage. Among these 4 skills, secret skills of Star Palace are well known even in the eternal chaotic world. Reset Palace is where we cultivate our consciousnesses. Since you are good at soul attacks, you can go there for cultivation, before which you'd better catch several meta beasts to absorb power when necessary. Those 3 places are very important, so only disciples from the Star Palace are entitled to use them. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Only disciples from the Star Palace were entitled to use those 3 great resources. He now understood why ordinary disciples envied him. There was indeed a great difference between ordinary ones and ones from the Star Palace. Apart from those 3, we also have 4 mystery lands and 9 shrines that are open to ordinary disciples. Though they are not as valuable as the 3 great treasures, they will also help a lot with one's cultivation, and many geniuses are eager for them. After a brief pause, Lei Chao continued, "Besides, we have 3 cultivation places, namely Star Tower, Illusionary Mind C, and Supreme Tower for disciples to cultivate and test their power. Star Tower and Illusionary Mind C are similar to 9 Boundaries Tower and Inadvertent Dreamland, but of a higher level." Chapter 1366, Sword Star. Chapter 1366, Sword Star. Besides the most precious Real God Hall, Scripture Depository, and Reset Palace, there are 4 mystery lands, 9 palaces, and 3 training fields. This definitely lives up to the reputation of the lineage of Star. There are so many cultivation resources here. I wonder what the effect will be. Jian Wushuang was excited. Soon, Lei Chao brought Jian Wushuang to a corner of the void. There were stars before him. In the lineage of Star, disciples from Star Palace can take up a star as a cultivation cave dwelling. "Jian Wushuang, you can pick one now," Lei Chao said. "Use a star as a cultivation cave swelling?" Jian Wushuang was shocked, but he didn't hesitate. His soul power swept out and he noticed a star. "That one then," Jian Wushuang pointed at the star and said. "Let's go." Lei Chao brought Jian Wushuang to the star straight away. That star wasn't huge in size, but there was a continuous palatial architecture on the star. Right in the middle, there was a delicate-looking cave dwelling. Before Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang arrived at the cave dwelling, they noticed that there was a large number of people already standing before the cave dwelling. Most of them were women, and every one of them looked and dressed the same. The leader of them all was a woman who had a svelte body and a beautiful face. The beautiful woman had an elegant style and a rare beauty. The aura that she gave out was fierce, and she had obviously already reached the level of a universe god in the third heaven. Seeing Jian Wushuang's arrival, everyone before the cave dwelling, including the beauty who was their leader, bowed politely as they said, "Greetings, Master." "Master?" Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. The people before him were all universe gods. Among them, the leading beauty was a universe god in the third heaven. But they were referring to him as Master. "These maids and servants are arranged for you. They will take care of your daily life while you concentrate on cultivation," Lei Chao said. This, Jian Wushuang didn't know how he should react. He said, "I don't need any maids or servants. I can just cultivate on my own." Jian Wushuang. Lei Chao looked over. These maids and servants came to Lineage of Star willingly. There are benefits for them when they work for Lineage of Star, when they take care of the disciples of Lineage of Star. You don't have to misunderstand them. To them, to be able to take care of the disciples of the Lineage of Star is definitely a great task. The benefits that they are taking is of course better. If you were to reject them, it would be a rather heavy loss to them. Jian Wushuang was stunned as he took a glance at the maid and servants around him. They did look worried and were obviously concerned that Jian Wushuang would chase them away. Jian Wushuang had no choice but smiled bitterly and said, "All right, let them stay then." The maid and servants immediately revealed a joyful expression. "If so, you should cultivate well. This is a message token. If you run into any problems, you can look for me." Lei Chao passed him a token. "Thank you." Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy as he took the token. Then Lei Chao left straight away. Jian Wushuang entered the cave dwelling with the maid and servants surrounding him. At the top of the cave dwelling, Jian Wushuang stood on a stone stool while he overlooked the maids and servants who stood politely. "Besides you, everyone can leave," said Jian Wushuang, pointing at the beauty with the svelte body. After they heard Jian Wushuang's instructions, the maids and servants bowed and excused themselves. Only the beauty was standing there still. "What's your name?" Jian Wushuang looked at the beauty. "Master, I am Qiu. The beauty replied politely. "Qiu, you don't have to call me master from today onward. Nor will you refer to yourself as a servant. It's rather uncomfortable for me," Jian Wushuang said. He knew that he was just a universe god in the first heaven, and with the cover-up, he was just a peak universe god in the second heaven. But Qiu was a universe god in the third heaven. She was much stronger than him in terms of power. A person who was stronger than him was referring to him as master so politely. Jian Wushuang, of course, found it rather strange. "This," Qiu muttered to herself and then nodded, "then I shall call you Mr." "That's fine." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. "Qiu, let me ask you, is what Lei Chao said real? Did all of you came to be a servant in Lineage of Star willingly?" "Of course," Qiu laughed. "Lineage of Star is the real ruling force of the Starland. Regardless of wisdom or ability, they are at the top in the eternal chaotic world. Such a sect naturally has tens of thousands of geniuses and experts dying to join. However, the threshold to join Lineage of Star is too high. One must be a genius among geniuses. Like myself, even though I am universe god in the third heaven, I am not gifted enough. So I am not qualified to be a disciple of Lineage of Star. As I can't be a disciple, there's only another way to enter Lineage of Star, which is to become a maid, a servant. Although maid and servants are one level lower, and might be put to great inconvenience, we are able to receive cultivation resources. Plus, Lineage of Star treats us, maid and servants, quite well. Under normal circumstances, as long as we stay in Lineage of Star for more than 10,000 years, we will receive a chance to enter the 9 shrines. Stay 10,000 years and we get to choose a secret skill from the first level of Shrine of Secret Skills to cultivate. Stay for 1,000,000 years and we get to experience the 4 mystery lands once. That treatment is much better than many core disciples in weaker sects in Starland. Plus, if one were to be lucky enough, if one's master were easy to talk to, he or she could ask for pointers from their master. How lucky would that be? Qiu Yu obviously had nothing to complain about being a maid in Lineage of Star. On the contrary, she was rather positive. I see, Jian Wushuang nodded silently. He understood that any cultivator who was an expert but wasn't gifted yet wouldn't be happy about being ordinary, like Qiu Yu, as they couldn't join and be nurtured by other sects. They might as well become a maid in Lineage of Star. They might stand a higher chance. Oh yeah, mister. Now that you are the master of this star, you can name this star. Then we maids and servants of the lineage can tell each other where we serve, Qiu Yu said. Name. Jian Wushuang suddenly paused and then smiled. My name is Jian Wushuang. I have used the word sword in my name, and I am good with swords. As such, from today onwards, this star shall be known as Sword Star. Chapter 1367, Star Tower. Chapter 1367, Star Tower. After Jian Wushuang asked Qiu Yu something about the Lineage of Star, he went to visit the vast building complex in the Sword Star. He wanted to know more about the numerous cultivation resources in the Lineage of Star. He chose to go to the Scripture Depository and the Reset Palace, which only allowed disciples from the Star Palace. In the complex. Hi. Jian Wushuang greeted someone. He was an ordinary disciple from the Lineage of Star. He was thin. He turned around when he heard Jian Wushuang's greeting. He immediately felt the existence of Jian Wushuang's token as a disciple from the Star Palace. Nice to meet you, brother. I am Chu Yang. The young man bowed to Jian Wushuang politely. Jian Wushuang was surprised. You came here not long ago, right? The young man looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded. In the Lineage of Star, ordinary disciples should show respect to disciples from the Star Palace regardless of how powerful he is or how long he has joined the lineage. Chu Yang explained smilingly. Jian Wushuang now understood. Is there anything that I can help you? Chu Yang asked. Could you please take me to the Scripture Depository and the Reset Palace? I am still unfamiliar with their locations. Jian Wushuang asked politely. Okay, please follow me. Chu Yang accepted the request delightedly. Only after a while they arrived at the Scripture Depository. Now we are in the Scripture Depository. You may enter and I will wait for you here. Thank you very much. Then Jian Wushuang entered the Scripture Depository. Neither books nor tokens were stored in the Scripture Depository. The only thing that Jian Wushuang discovered was 4 secret rooms. In front of the 4 secret rooms sat a white-haired elder. He raised his head as Jian Wushuang approached him. Are you the new member? The elder asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. There is a rule here. Each disciple from the Star Palace can cultivate 1 secret skill in the Scripture Depository with no condition. But if they want to cultivate a second one, they should meet a certain requirement. I can feel that you have already cultivated the secret skills of Star Palace, so you are not eligible to cultivate others. The elder said. Jian Wushuang then continued to ask him. So what requirements should I meet in order to cultivate the second secret skill? Among the 3 cultivation places in our Lineage of Star, the Star Tower is a place where we test our unique skills and sword principles. There are 3 levels in the tower and you only have to pass the 3rd one. Okay. The Star Tower. Jian Wushuang nodded and left. Chu Yang was still waiting outside the Scripture Depository. How was your visit? Chu Yang asked. I had cultivated the secret skills of Star Palace before I arrived at the Lineage of Star. So now I have to pass the 3rd level of the Star Tower in order to cultivate the second secret skill. Jian Wushuang answered. Chu Yang said, well, the Star Tower is not far from here. I could lead you there. Good idea. They went to the Star Tower. The Star Tower was a splendid, purple-gold big tower with 6 levels. Good luck to you, brother, Chu Yang said. Jian Wushuang started to ponder. Lei Chao told him that the Star Tower was quite similar to the Nine Boundaries Tower but was on a higher level. Jian Wushuang passed the 14th level of the Nine Boundaries Tower, but he was unsure which level he could pass in the Star Tower. Jian Wushuang entered the first level with hope in his heart. On the first level he saw his opponent, a cold middle-aged man. The man waved his sword when he saw Jian Wushuang, saying, "You are good at swordsmanship? Let us see who is the winner." Jian Wushuang took out his Blood Mountain sword and he became excited. "Come on!" the man yelled and he stepped forward. Then he waved his sword to Jian Wushuang. This attack was appalling, full of coldness and darkness. Jian Wushuang generated his power and started to wave the Blood Mountain sword. Dragon roar! The power of the sword exploded. But when the two forces of sword collided with each other, bang! Under the attack, Jian Wushuang's sword power totally collapsed. The attack from the man directly hit Jian Wushuang's body. Bang! Jian Wushuang's figure was blasted out. Outside the Star Tower, Chu Yang was waiting. He was wondering how many levels Jian Wushuang had passed. He thought, though brother Jian Wushuang is a new member here and hasn't cultivated with the resources of the lineage of Star, he must be powerful as a disciple from the Star Tower. So, I guess, he'll pass at least the second level? But passing the third level will be difficult. He may only be able to pass the third after cultivating for a long time in the lineage of Star. But as Chu Yang was thinking, he saw a figure blast out of the Star Tower. The figure was Jian Wushuang. What happened? Chu Yang was shocked. He was blasted out soon after entering into the tower? In such a short time? Indeed, a very short time. Within just 10 breaths, Jian Wushuang was blasted out of the tower. Jian Wushuang was as shocked as Chu Yang. It was just the first level, and it's more powerful than I imagined. The man's swordsmanship defeated him easily within a very short time. Jian Wushuang had utterly failed. Chapter 1368 Reset Palace. Chapter 1368 Reset Palace. Rank 3 Unique Skill. It's only the first floor, but this person performed a rank 3 unique skill and it's an advanced rank 3 unique skill. Jian Wushuang was astonished. Only the first floor and he was defeated. If he wanted to pass through the third level and cultivate the second secret skill in Scripture Depository, it'd be a joke. That's not right. Even though in Lineage of Star is filled with top geniuses, the test of the Star Tower didn't have to be that difficult, right? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. He, a universe god in the first heaven, went to the first floor of Star Tower, but the opponent on the first floor performed a rank 3 unique skill straightway. What kind of sorcery was that? Unless, Jian Wushuang suddenly thought of a possibility, unless the Star Tower didn't treat me as a universe god in the first heaven, but the second heaven. Jian Wushuang's face grew strange the moment he thought of the possibility. I finally understood why Lei Chao said that I, a universe god in the first heaven, pretending to be a universe god in the second heaven would be at a disadvantage. I guess that's why. The training field in the Lineage of Star was set according to the cultivator's level. The starting point for a universe god in the first heaven and a universe god in the second heaven was definitely different. Take the Star Tower, for instance. If it were to be other disciples who were universe gods in the first heaven who would go to the first floor of Star Tower, the opponent on the first floor would only perform an advanced rank 2 unique skill at most. If Star Tower only treated Jian Wushuang as a universe god in the first heaven, he naturally could pass through the test easily. However, the crucial part was that Star Tower took him as a universe god in the second heaven. I only created a peak rank 2 unique skill then. However, the opponent from the first floor in Star Tower only could perform advanced rank 3 unique skill. It is a few levels different. In other words, I am far from passing through the first floor of Star Tower, Jian Wushuang sighed. However, he didn't think it was unfair for him. He was an inverse cultivator after all. Comparing an inverse cultivator to an ordinary cultivator, the starting point itself should be a level higher. A universe god in the first heaven that did inverse cultivation was really treated like a universe god in the second heaven in the eternal chaotic world. Senior. Chu Yang walked over and looked at Jian Wushuang in suspicion. He found it strange and asked, Senior, which floor in Star Tower were you in? This, Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. To be frank, I didn't even pass the first floor and I am far from passing. You can't even pass the first floor? Chu Yang creased his eyebrows. A disciples of Star Palace couldn't even pass through the first floor in Star Palace and he was far from passing. What was going on? One must know, in lineage of Star, even with those ordinary disciples, more than 90% of them could pass through the first floor and some could even pass through the second floor. Would it be because he was careless and he didn't put his full ability to play at the very first moment, that's why he was defeated? Chu Yang thought to himself. It seemed to be the only explanation he could find. Otherwise, a disciple of the Star Palace who didn't even pass through the first floor of Star Tower was definitely a joke. Senior, why don't I bring you to the Reset Palace and take a look? Chu Yang said. All right, Jian Wushuang nodded. Chu Yang then brought Jian Wushuang to Reset Palace. In lineage of Star, only disciples of the Star Palace were qualified to enter the Reset Palace. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate but stepped foot into Reset Palace straight away. The moment Jian Wushuang entered the palace, he could feel a shapeless force greet him. This is an assault of consciousness. No, not only consciousness, it also contained magic and even a mind devil. This? Jian Wushuang suddenly beamed. He had cultivated for 10 years in Tianyuan Mystery Land back in Snow Kingdom. In those 10 years, he had gained a huge reward, but Tianyuan Mystery Land was mainly about the assault of consciousness. However, the Reset Palace not only had assault of consciousness, it also contained magic and mind devils. Jian Wushuang could also manipulate the strength of magic and mind devils. It was obviously much more outstanding compared to Tianyuan Mystery Land's sole assault of consciousness. I heard long ago that there was a place in the lineage of Star that trains and nourishes consciousness. I finally get to see it. It's really extraordinary. King of Venomous Worm's voice was heard in Jian Wushuang's head. The higher-ups in lineage of Star really know how to nurture their disciples. They started to think about how to improve their disciples' strength of consciousness when they were just universe gods. They even created Reset Palace for this purpose and also the test in Illusionary Mind C. They are paving a way for their disciples. King of Venomous Worms complimented. Jian Wushuang could hear what King of Venomous Worms said. He heard from King of Venomous Worms that, to become the top expert in the eternal chaotic world, which was to become an almighty, one had to pass a barrier. The barrier was to light up his soul fire. How difficult it was to light up soul fire. Just like Jian Wushuang, who was an inverse cultivator, he lit up his soul fire when he was a universe master. However, an ordinary cultivator put in all their effort and paid a huge price, and it'd still be rather difficult to light up their soul fire. The inability to light up their soul fire meant the inability for them to take the leap towards the rest of their lives. To light up their soul fire, consciousness was the crucial element. The consciousness was required to be trained step by step since it was weak. It was required to improve bit by bit, especially during their time as universe god. The training and improvement of consciousness was extremely important. Due to this, Lineage of Star intentionally created Reset Palace especially to improve and nourish their disciples' consciousness. Their intention was to lay a great foundation and pave a way that leads them to take the greatest leap. Even though the chance was slim, they could at least try. The Reset Palace was useful for me to improve my soul power. If I were to cultivate here, my soul power would definitely improve tremendously. I reckon it wouldn't be long until I reached the level of a universe god in the third heaven. Plus, there's help from the meta beasts. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining brightly. When Lei Chao talked about Reset Palace back then, he said that he could try to catch a few meta beasts and use the meta strength them to nourish consciousness. Then he would improve even more greatly. Go and catch meta beasts. Jian Wushuang immediately headed outside of Reset Palace. When Jian Wushuang met Chu Yang outside of Reset Palace, he clarified his intention with Chu Yang. Chu Yang, I shall capture meta beasts on my own. It will not be necessary for you to lead the way, Jian Wushuang said. If so, I shall excuse myself, Chu Yang said. Sorry for the trouble, Jian Wushuang thanked him again. Chapter 1369, Catch the Meta Beast. Chapter 1369, Catch the Meta Beast. After saying goodbye to Chu Yang, Jian Wushuang went to the Star River. He was searching for meta beasts. There's one. Jian Wushuang soon found a meta beast, but it was tiny. The beast was just half a meter tall. Obviously, its energy had been absorbed by disciples in the lineage of Star and the beast hadn't recovered. Jian Wushuang wouldn't get enough energy by capturing it. A useful meta beast should be at least 1 to 2 meters tall. Go on. Jian Wushuang continued searching. The Star River was vast. Jian Wushuang couldn't go through the whole river in only 1 month. After an hour, Jian Wushuang had found another one. This one was almost 3 meters tall. There you go. Jian Wushuang approached the beast quietly. But as he approached, the beast detected him and turned around, staring at him. This meta beast was born in the Star River a long time ago. It had been captured by disciples in the lineage of Star multiple times, knowing how dangerous its predators were. As soon as it saw Jian Wushuang, it immediately ran away. It ran so fast like a flash. You can't escape. Jian Wushuang followed it. Whoosh! He and the beast rushed quickly through the Star River. Jian Wushuang was surprised about the beast's speed. Jian Wushuang couldn't catch up with it even though he had tried his best. It's time for me to use some tools. Jian Wushuang then used his consciousness to generate his blaze quicksand gourd, from which a tremendous amount of sand rushed out. The rushing speed of the sand was way faster than the running beast. Soon those sands covered the beast and lowered its speed. In that way, Jian Wushuang narrowed the distance with the beast. Soon he caught up with the beast. Jian Wushuang said delightedly to the beast, I will not kill you. Just give your energy to me. The beast seemed to understand what Jian Wushuang said. It turned around and looked at Jian Wushuang with great hostility. Beasts born in the Star River were docile, but they would become aggressive when faced with danger, especially after being caught by humans several times. The beast roared. The beast stopped running and rushed to Jian Wushuang. It raised its front feet and intended to attack Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang hit the beast with his fists instead of using the Blood Mountain sword in order not to injure it. Bang! After an explosion, the Star River around them went dark. Jian Wushuang was blasted out. It took him a while to stand stably. He was shocked by the power of the beast. What happened? While Jian Wushuang was blasted out, the meta beast was not injured at all. He had failed to pass even the first level of the Star Tower. He had felt better for the simple reason that he was regarded as a universe god in the second heaven, but now he had even failed to catch a meta beast. Even a beast was more powerful than him. I once saw a universe god catch a meta beast easily, so I have always thought that it would just be a piece of cake for me to catch one too. But the meta beast was also shocked. It had always believed that humans were so powerful. But this time, the predators seemed weak. I want to try again. Jian Wushuang rushed to the beast again. And the beast also rushed to him. They were going to collide and battle again. But at that very moment, 2 figures came. A man and a woman. The man was slightly fat and the woman was the one that Jian Wushuang had seen catch a 3-meter meta beast easily before. How many beasts have you caught? The man asked the woman. 12. And you? Roughly the same as you. The man smiled. I will go back after catching several more. So will I. The woman said. As they were talking, they heard a bombing sound. What is that? That bombing sound only exists when 2 people are fighting together. Who dares fight in Starland? The man frowned. Let us go and have a look. The woman said. As they went to where the sound was coming from, they saw Jian Wushuang and the beast. The disciple of lineage of star is like us. He's also a universe god in the second heaven. As for his name, I think he's called Jian Wushuang. Exactly then. We ran into him in the Milky Way earlier and he happened to be catching meta beasts, the black-haired man said. He just got to lineage of star. He knew the meta beast was useful. If he wanted to catch a few for cultivation, there is no big deal. Luo Quan creased his eyebrows and said, if so, of course, there's no big deal. However, the black-haired man smirked and looked at the lady in gold robe. Junior, take it out. The lady in gold robe nodded and then took out a token. She allocated her consciousness and the recorded image in the token was played before every one of them. A mirror image? Luo Quan and the others were shocked, but they looked anyway. In a short time, Luo Quan and the others who watched the recorded image looked puzzled. How is that possible? A disciple of lineage of star who was a universe god in the second heaven couldn't do anything to a 3-meter-tall meta beast. Isn't this ridiculous? Jian Wushuang, didn't he hide his ability? The few disciples on training field gasped. From what they saw, the power that Jian Wushuang showed during his fight with the meta beast was really too weak. Luo Quan squinted his eyes and looked at the black-haired man and the lady in the gold robe. Are you sure that he used all of his power? The black-haired man shook his head. We only saw him fighting with the meta beast, but we couldn't tell if he gave his all. However, if he wanted to catch meta beast, he can't just let a 3-meter-high meta beast leave before his eyes, right? Just then, everyone, what are you doing here? A figure walked over. He happened to be the disciple that had brought Jian Wushuang around earlier, Chu Yang. Chu Yang, you came just in time. Quick, come and take a look at the image. The black-haired man pulled Chu Yang over to watch the image. Chu Yang's eyebrows were tightly knitted after he watched. Would Jian Wushuang really be so weak? Chu Yang muttered. Chu Yang, you meant really weak? Did you suspect his power before this? The black-haired man said. To be frank, I brought Jian Wushuang to Star Tower once. But Jian Wushuang flew out almost instantly. He didn't even pass through the first floor of Star Tower. Plus, when I asked if he was too careless and didn't put his all to play, he said that he gave his all and he really couldn't pass through the first level, Chu Yang said. He didn't even pass the first floor of Star Tower? All the disciples at the scene were shocked. 6th floor in Star Tower, one floor was more difficult than the other. But the first floor was the easiest. Even they managed to pass through the first floor. It seems that we didn't guess wrong. Jian Wushuang, who just came to lineage of star, was really weak, but he became a disciple of Star Palace, a role that all of us desired. The black-haired man's eyes became fiery red as he spoke. Chapter 1371, Luo Quan challenged Jian Wushuang. Chapter 1371, Luo Quan challenged Jian Wushuang. It is all a matter of luck. Jian Wushuang just joined the Star Palace by luck. Why did Hall Master Yuan and Lei Chao allow Jian Wushuang in? Many disciples felt wronged and got angry. Stop! Chu Yang reminded the arguing people, the long-time reputation of our lineage of star depends on our value for real ability rather than luck. I think Hall Master Yuan and Lei Chao admitted Jian Wushuang in for certain reasons. Jian Wushuang must have something unusual. Let's see whether he can withstand the test. A man called Luo Quan said. What do you intend to do? Chu Yang looked at Luo Quan. Luo Quan asked people around him, do you guys know where Jian Wushuang lives? A disciple said, in a star called Sword Star. Okay, let's go there and meet him. Luo Quan said. Then 7 disciples went to the Sword Star. Jian Wushuang was still in the Star River. He had been in the Star River for 4 days, during which he had met many beasts, but some were difficult for him to conquer. He had caught only 4, each of which was less than 2 meters tall and relatively weak. Jian Wushuang caught and kept them. They are enough for me to cultivate in the Reset Palace for a while. So he planned to go back. After absorbing the power of 4 meta beasts, he went back to the Sword Star. Qiu Yu went to him when he arrived. Finally, you have come back, Master. What happened? Several guests have been waiting for you for a long time. Qiu Yu said. Jian Wushuang frowned. Luo Quan and other disciples now appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Hello, brother Jian Wushuang. I am Luo Quan. Hello. Those ordinary disciples all bowed to Jian Wushuang. After all, Jian Wushuang was a disciple from the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang smiled to them. What are you coming for? I have competed with the most of the universe gods in the second heaven and I like competing. May I invite you to compete with me? Jian Wushuang said, okay. Luo Quan frowned and was a little bit worried. He thought Jian Wushuang had accepted the invitation because he was confident of winning. But in fact, Jian Wushuang only cared about whether he could learn and improve his abilities. He was eager to fight with geniuses from the lineage of Star. Anyone who is qualified to be a disciple from the lineage of Star must be a genius. Jian Wushuang felt excited to have the opportunity to battle with them. Come on. Luo Quan wore a pair of blood-red gloves and was staring at Jian Wushuang, ready to fight. Jian Wushuang also took out his Blood Mountain sword and started to fight. Bang! An extraordinary power was generated by Jian Wushuang. Divine Shadow. The power of Jian Wushuang's sword exploded. A flash of light soon multiplied into thousands of flashes. Those flashes all rushed to Luo Quan. The Divine Shadow was one of the 3 peak rank 2 unique skills that Jian Wushuang had created. Rank 2 unique skills. In response, Luo Quan fought with his palms with red gloves. Bang, bang, bang. Luo Quan's power collided with Jian Wushuang's sword, pushing back the Blood Mountain sword. Luo Quan generated more power. His palms became more strong and powerful, forcing Jian Wushuang to step back. Show me all of your power. Luo Quan murmured. Come on. Blood Knight. Blood Knight was the most powerful skill that Jian Wushuang had. He tried his best. And Luo Quan rushed toward Jian Wushuang and generated even more power. Boom! A strong soul power directly hit Luo Quan, but didn't affect him too much. Bang! Luo Quan stretched out his sharp claws, as if to tear the whole universe apart. The claw reached Jian Wushuang. Though Luo Quan didn't use all of his power, Jian Wushuang was hit hard. He became pale and started bleeding. The battle ended. Is your power really limited to this level? Any universe god in the second heaven in a small sect would be better than you, let alone disciples from the lineage of Star. How could you be a disciple from Star Palace? You don't deserve it. Now Luo Quan showed little respect to Jian Wushuang. The others were also indifferent. After all, they only recognized capability. They would respect Jian Wushuang only if he was powerful enough. But it turned out that Jian Wushuang was weak. You still have 800 years before the selection battle for the Star Palace. If you are still weak by then, give your position in the Star Palace to me. Luo Quan said indifferently as he walked away. Chapter 1372 Battle. Chapter 1372 Battle. On Sword Star, Jian Wushuang watched Luo Quan and the others leave with no facial expression. Luo Quan is really strong. I performed the Blood Knight technique with my all and I erupted my soul attack entirely. Theoretically, even an ordinary universe god in the third heaven would find it difficult to resist. However, he encountered my soul attack directly and wasn't affected at all. His consciousness is very strong and he is much stronger in power than me. Jian Wushuang complimented him, but he was looking at Qiu Yu next to him. Qiu Yu looked strange. But, are you disappointed in my power? Jian Wushuang said casually. No. I believe that you becoming the disciple of lineage of Star definitely meant that you are unusually capable. Even if you aren't Luo Quan's match now, you could definitely catch up in no time, Qiu Yu said. Jian Wushuang smiled when he heard that, but his pupils contracted. He didn't care about victory or defeat. Even if he lost to Luo Quan, he wouldn't be bothered. his power was weaker compared to the universe gods in the second heaven after all. However, such weakness wouldn't persist. Qiuyu, when Luo Quan left earlier, he mentioned something about the battle between disciples of Star Palace. What is it? Jian Wushuang asked. That's a battle aiming to fight for the right to become a disciple of Star Palace. In Lineage of Star, it will be conducted every 5,000 years, Qiuyu said. Oh. Jian Wushuang looked. Mister, you just came to Lineage of Star. There are many things that you have yet to know. In Lineage of Star, it has always been power defines one's position, Qiuyu explained. Under normal circumstances, the disciples of Star Palace have always had 15 slots. Among them, 5 are universe gods in the third heaven, 5 are universe god in the second heaven, and 5 are universe gods in the first heaven. In other words, they selected top 5 strongest universe gods in each heaven to join Star Palace. The selection method is conducted through a battle between disciples in Star Palace that is held every 5,000 years in Lineage of Star. In the battle, the 5 strongest will become disciples of Star Palace while the rest will be ordinary disciples. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood then. In other words, although I am a disciple of Star Palace now, if I fail to be in the top 5 strongest among universe gods in the second heaven in the battle 800 years later, I will be degraded as an ordinary disciple. Yes, Qiuyu nodded. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows and he immediately felt pressure from the bottom of his heart. In Lineage of Star, there was a huge difference between the disciples of Star Palace and ordinary disciples. Especially considering that Real God Hall, Scripture Depository, Reset Palace, the 3 main cultivation resource were only occupied by disciples of Star Palace. Jian Wushuang, of course, wanted to maintain his position as a disciple of Star Palace. However, with his ability then, he was at the bottom of the universe gods in the second heaven within Lineage of Star. I only have 800 years. Jian Wushuang held his fists tight and his eyes were twinkling with energy. 800 years wasn't short to him. With 800 years' time, with the aid of cultivation resources in Lineage of Star, he might stand a chance. Mister, you lost to Luo Quan today before the other few disciples. If I'm not mistaken, they definitely will spread the word. By then, I'm afraid it would trigger the suspicion and dissatisfaction of many other disciples. There might be other disciples who come to challenge you. You must be mentally prepared. Qiuyu reminded. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. My current power is too weak. I have to admit. Whether or not they suspect me has nothing to do with me. If they want to challenge me, by all means, come. There is no difference between losing 1 battle and 100 battles anyway. Jian Wushuang didn't care. On the contrary, he hoped that the disciples in Lineage of Star would look for him. Jian Wushuang treated the fights with the geniuses as a kind of training. Plus, he had already lost to Luo Quan. So what if he were to lose to other ordinary disciples? He didn't care about victory or defeat. The only thing that he cared about was his strength and the result of the battle that would happen 800 years later. Just as Qiuyu has predicted, the news about Jian Wushuang being defeated by Luo Quan spread like wildfire in Lineage of Star. At the same time, the mirror image of their battle was spread across Lineage of Star too. On top of that, the image of Jian Wushuang trying to catch a meta beast in the Milky Way was spread along too. The moment the images spread, it suddenly stirred a commotion in the entire Lineage of Star. The disciples in Lineage of Star were all astonished. They were shocked at the fact that Jian Wushuang was defeated by Luo Quan. There were many geniuses in Lineage of Star after all. It was normal that an ordinary disciple win against disciples in Star Palace occasionally. Plus, Jian Wushuang just got to the Lineage of Star and he had yet to cultivate while utilizing the resource in Lineage of Star. It was nothing if his power wasn't ahead of Luo Quan. What shocked the disciples was that the power that Jian Wushuang revealed was really too weak. Weak? How could he be so weak? He can't even do anything to a 3-meter-tall meta beast, and he is a disciple of Star Palace. I heard that he couldn't even pass through the first floor of Star Tower. Is this a joke? Universe God in the second heaven with only this level of power, there are so many in Purple Moon Sanctuary. What is Hall Master Yuan thinking? How could they let such a person become a disciple of Star Palace? These disciples couldn't understand how Jian Wushuang, with such a weak power, had become a disciple of Star Palace. As they couldn't understand, it naturally became dissatisfaction towards the higher-ups of Lineage of Star. Unfair. I put in so much effort but I could only maintain my position as an ordinary disciple. But Jian Wushuang is a disciple of Star Palace with only such power? Would Jian Wushuang be one of the Hall Master's illegitimate children, or is he related to the Palace Master by any chance? Otherwise, why would the higher-ups of Lineage of Star take such a good care of him? Lineage of Star was filled with dissatisfaction and complaints. The disciples of Star Palace was definitely an existence that countless ordinary disciples in Lineage of Star envied. The three most precious cultivation resources in Lineage of Star had always been the special privilege that disciples of Star Palace possessed, while ordinary disciples stood almost no hope at all. All this while, the ordinary disciples fought for a chance to become a disciple of Star Palace. Those who were lucky enough to become disciples of Star Palace relied on their power and proved themselves to become one. Hence, these ordinary disciples could only accept them. However, the ordinary disciples were then unhappy with the appearance of Jian Wushuang and the power that he revealed. The ordinary disciples complained that Lineage of Star was unfair and that the higher-ups were biased. Chapter 1373, Unfair. Chapter 1373, Unfair. On the Sword Star, a new round of the ongoing battle was happening. Bang! A giant axe hit Jian Wushuang directly, blasting at both him and his sword. It took Jian Wushuang quite a while to regain his stability. Is he worth his identity as a disciple from the Star Palace? Ridiculous! The man using the axe glanced at Jian Wushuang with contempt and left. Outside of the Sword Star, many disciples were watching the battle. Jian Wushuang has already lost 12 battles consecutively. 13, if we count the battle with Luo Quan. It is the first time that I have seen such a weak disciple from the Star Palace. Many disciples were gossiping about Jian Wushuang. He just joined the Star Palace by luck. Still, he is quite resilient and never gave up, even though he was defeated by multiple times. Resilient? I think he is stupid. He may step down in 800 years. I would be meaningless to waste time discussing him. Many disciples left. They had gradually lost interest in Jian Wushuang and no one challenged him anymore. Amongst those who were still watching Jian Wushuang were two particular figures: Hall Master Yuan and Lei Chao. Hall Master Yuan sighed. He is having a difficult time. Of course, how can it be easy to pretend to be a universe god in the second heaven when he is only in the first heaven? Lei Chao said. Recently, many disciples as well as many real gods have complained to me that it is unfair to let Jian Wushuang in. Nonsense. It is only unfair to Jian Wushuang, not them. Lei Chao murmured. But they don't know the truth, so we can't blame them either. Let's just see what will happen in the future. Obstacles are good for him. But if Jian Wushuang becomes an ordinary disciple, he will lose many resources. Lei Chao said. Maybe we won't have to worry about this just now. Just wait. Hall Master Yuan said smilingly and left. Lei Chao also left. After ordinary disciples lost interest in Jian Wushuang, he finally had time to devote himself to cultivation. He was now in the Reset Palace. He was sitting in the palace with a strong consciousness attack around him. Under the attack, Jian Wushuang slowly increased his soul resilience. At the same time, he was consuming the power captured by the 4 meta beasts, which facilitated his soul power. With the help of the beast's power, I can increase my soul power faster. Jian Wushuang felt satisfied. After he had run out of all the meta beast power, he chose to leave the Reset Palace and started to travel around the 9 shrines. Although the 9 shrines were not as valuable as the Real God Hall and the Reset Palace, they could still help cultivators a lot. Especially the Shrine of Myriad Swords. The Shrine of Myriad Swords was used for cultivating swordsmanship. It was home to countless secret skills, the procedures of which could be demonstrated through screens. There were so many high-level secret skills that were convenient to learn. The Shrine of Myriad Swords could definitely help Jian Wushuang improve his swordsmanship. Now my cultivation of swordsmanship is going through a bottleneck and I need a breakthrough. Maybe I could draw some inspiration and make a breakthrough here. Jian Wushuang was delighted. From then on, Jian Wushuang went to the Shrine of Myriad Swords and the Reset Palace every day. The Reset Palace forced Jian Wushuang to strengthen his consciousness. But he needed to relax after spending time under too much pressure. He chose to go to the Shrine of Myriad Swords to learn swordsmanship and occasionally caught meta beasts to absorb energy. Time passed quickly. Jian Wushuang had been in the lineage of Star for 30 years. In the Shrine of Myriad Swords. With a harsh sound, a bright flash of light burst out from Jian Wushuang's sword. The light transformed into a scarlet phoenix which could generate overwhelming power. As the light dissipated, the phoenix also disappeared. Jian Wushuang had succeeded. Finally, I have made a breakthrough in the past 30 years and created a peak rank 2 secret skill. Jian Wushuang was satisfied. Without resources in the lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang would have had to spend much more time. But, inspired by resources from the Shrine of Myriad Swords, he had made a breakthrough within only 30 years. It would take a long time to create a rank 3 secret skill. Jian Wushuang, you should integrate the peak rank 2 secret skill into your Blood Mountain sword to make it more powerful, King of Venomous Worms commented. You are right. Jian Wushuang was inspired. Chapter 1374, Unfortunate Experience in the Milky Way. Chapter 1374, Unfortunate Experience in the Milky Way. Cultivation time waited for no man. To those experts at the top of the eternal chaotic world, such as Almighty like the founder of Lineage of Star, 10,000 years or 100,000 years were all like the snap of his fingers. 1,000,000 years was merely a blink of an eye. Tens of millions of years wasn't long either. However, to Jian Wushuang that had yet to cultivate for 10,000 years, he could do many things in 800 years. It was his 120th year in Lineage of Star. Star Tower, first floor. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Rays of sword light swept out magically from Jian Wushuang continuously. Those sword lights were beautiful, and every ray was enchanting. His opponent, the middle-aged man with a long beard, wielded his sword. He was quick, accurate, and brutal. He was extremely decisive in his moves. Both of their swordsmanships were exposed entirely and their swords collided over and over again. The collision of their sword lights reverberated through Star Tower. There was suddenly a sharp glare in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Billows. Gush. There was a boundless sword light that exploded. It looked like there was at least 1,000 rays of sword lights. The sword lights looked blurry and no one could tell which was real. Break. The middle-aged man bellowed and twitched. It slammed the core of the sword light like lightning and collided with the tip of the Blood Mountain sword. Ghosting. The divine power in Jian Wushuang's hands surged, and boundless sword lights overlapped one another as though 1,000 rays of sword light had gathered into one and suddenly erupted. What? The long-bearded middle-aged man looked astonished, but he couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the sword light directly. The first floor of Star Tower passed. Finally passed. There was joy in Jian Wushuang's eyes. When he first got to Star Tower, he was defeated by the long-bearded middle-aged man directly. He was far from passing the floor. However, 120 years later, although he had yet to create an advanced rank 3 unique skill, with the 2 beginner rank 3 unique skills and with his understanding of swordsmanship and killing technique, he had passed through the first floor of Star Tower. In Lineage of Star, most of the ordinary disciples who are Universe God in the second heaven could only pass through the first floor of Star Tower. I am barely even-handed with but not at the bottom like before, Jian Wushuang smiled. On the day Jian Wushuang passed through the first level of Star Tower, the news spread. Like a gentle breeze, there was not much response. Merely passing the first floor wasn't enough to catch the disciples' attention. If Jian Wushuang could pass through the second floor of the Star Tower, that might catch their attention. The meta strength that I obtained earlier finished. I have to catch a few meta beasts for supplementation. Jian Wushuang walked directly to the Milky Way after he left Star Tower. In the boundless Milky Way, Jian Wushuang wandered leisurely as his soul power spread. Soon, Jian Wushuang found his first meta beast. Oh, a 3-meter-tall meta beast? Jian Wushuang's eyes blinked. 120 years ago, the first time he came to catch a meta beast, it was also a 3-meter-tall meta beast. But then he couldn't do anything about it and could only let it go. But now, Jian Wushuang immediately moved and suppressed the meta beast's speed with Blaze Quicksand Gourd. He caught up with it and took swift action. In a short time, the meta beast was caught alive. First, Jian Wushuang smiled and continued to wander around. 10 days passed. In the past 10 days, Jian Wushuang had caught 22 meta beasts to extract a large amount of meta strength. With the meta strength that I extracted, it should be enough for me to cultivate for a few years in Reset Palace. Let me catch one last one. Jian Wushuang made up his mind. Half an hour later, Jian Wushuang found his last meta beast. Quite a fat little one, huh? Jian Wushuang looked at the meta beast, which was huge and almost 4 meters tall. He was impressed. There were many meta beasts in the Milky Way. However, as the disciples in Lineage of Star always extracted their meta strength from them, there were very few that could reach 4 meters tall. Previously, Jian Wushuang had only come across one. Rumble. Jian Wushuang took action directly. The Blaze Quicksand Gourd suppressed the meta beast while he wielded Blood Mountain Sword and formed a boundless sword intention to cover the meta beast. Wow. A mere collision twice. As he was worried that he would hurt the meta beast, Jian Wushuang intentionally hit the meta beast's body with the body of Blood Mountain Sword. However, in the end, the meta beast retreated madly. Little one, don't struggle, Jian Wushuang smiled. The 4-meter-tall meta beast could tell that he couldn't win against the human attacker, so it started running madly. Even though it was within the scope of Blaze Quicksand Gourd, it still showed shocking speed. It looks like I'll need to put in some effort, Jian Wushuang sighed. The 4-meter-tall meta beast was obviously more difficult to deal with than expected. However, just as Jian Wushuang prepared to chase the meta beast, there was a figure that appeared before the meta beast. Then, there was a hand that swept like lightning and slapped the meta beast. The fierce force caused the meta beast to groan in pain. Then, the figure took action again and caught the meta beast easily. Jian Wushuang moved and came before the figure. Chu Yang, it's you? Jian Wushuang looked at the person before him calmly. He had a good impression of Chu Yang. After all, Chu Yang was the one who had him around to the Lineage of Star back then. Jian Wushuang. Chu Yang took a glance at Jian Wushuang in disdain. Thank you for blocking the meta beast for me. Otherwise, it would take a while for me to catch it, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Blocking it for you? Hee, I think you misunderstood the situation. Chu Yang looked cold and his voice was low. Although you were the one who saw the meta beast first, the person who caught it is me. The meta beast is naturally mine and you'd better stay far away. Stay far away? Jian Wushuang was stunned, but he sneered in his heart. Chu Yang didn't know my power back then but only treated me with passion because I am a disciple of Star Palace. But everyone knows about my power now. Chu Yang has taken such an attitude to me. What a realistic person. Although Jian Wushuang sneered, he didn't care. He had been used to it for a long time. But what are you doing here? Can't you hear me? Chu Yang glared at Jian Wushuang coldly. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, don't blame me. Chapter 1375, Give a Lesson to Chu Yang. Chapter 1375, Give a Lesson to Chu Yang. In the Star River, Jian Wushuang and Chu Yang stood face to face. Silence spread over the surroundings. Chu Yang. Jian Wushuang raised his head. I'm okay with giving you the meta beast, but I feel uncomfortable with your attitude to me. Who cares? In the lineage of Star, no one respects you. Chu Yang sneered. Jian Wushuang didn't respond but stared at Chu Yang. A flash of light was sent out from his eyes. Bang! The light was the great soul power generated by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang generated it so quickly and silently that it shot out to Chu Yang in just 1 second. What? Chu Yang was surprised. He knew it was a soul attack but he couldn't resist. Bang! Chu Yang felt like billions of thunderstorms had struck him, and his consciousness came to a halt. At this moment, Jian Wushuang continued to beat him with his palms. Bang! The sound of the beats were resounding. Chu Yang was knocked down, causing blood to fly from his mouth. It took him a while to stand stably. After Chu Yang recovered his consciousness, he found that a scarlet, palm-shaped scar was left on the left side of his face. It hurt. Chu Yang was shocked. If you were not a disciple from the lineage of Star and if we were out of the territory of the lineage of Star, I would have killed you, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. Then Jian Wushuang left Chu Yang alone. Chu Yang was speechless and stunned. The scar on his face told him what had just happened. How can this be possible? Why is his consciousness attack so strong? Much stronger than 120 years ago. Jian Wushuang continued to walk through the Star River. I have kept a low profile and stayed focused on cultivation for the past 120 years. No one knows that my power had increased dramatically. Chu Yang believed that I was weak. And now he has learned his lesson. Jian Wushuang laughed. 120 years ago, he had been defeated by 13 disciples. He had indeed been weak at that time. Ordinary disciples found it easy to defeat him. But now things were different. He had made a great breakthrough. He had caught up with ordinary disciples and passed the first level of the Star Tower in a test of his secret skills and swordsmanship. But the most dramatic improvement was in his soul power. The resources in the Reset Palace, as one of the most valuable treasures in the lineage of Star, had indeed helped him a lot. Furthermore, he had used Meta Beast's power to facilitate his soul power. The most important resources came from the Universal Tao Scripture from his master Xian. The Universal Tao Scripture was a high-level guide to improving soul power. Jian Wushuang had gained great benefits from the Universal Tao Scripture when he was in Tianyuan Mystery Land. But the Reset Palace was more challenging and therefore more powerful than the Universal Tao Scripture. Within 120 years, Jian Wushuang's soul power had increased to nearly the level of a peak universe god in the third heaven. He could generate soul power that even an ordinary universe god in the third heaven couldn't resist. That was why Chu Yang had been easily defeated. Chu Yang's consciousness was just barely equal to an ordinary universe god in the third heaven. So he had lost consciousness under Jian Wushuang's attack. In this way, Jian Wushuang could take chances to attack him. Since you have improved your soul power a lot, it is now easier for you to exercise the secret skill of Tianyuan. King of Venomous Worms said. Yes, I can now use the secret skill of Tianyuan 5 times in a short time. 120 years ago, he could have only used it once at a time. Continue to improve yourself to the level of a peak universe god in the third heaven so that you can exercise the second level of the secret skill of Tianyuan rather than the first now. It will be a big advantage in the selection battle for disciples in the Star Palace. King of Venomous Worms said. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled. He went back to the Reset Palace. There he continued to improve his soul power with the help of the Meta Beast's power. As for Chu Yang, he didn't mention anything about Jian Wushuang and his scar. It was too shameful for him. So no one else knew Jian Wushuang's power. 6 years soon passed. Jian Wushuang paused his cultivation in the Reset Palace. I have consumed all my Meta Beast power, but my soul power is still at the level of an advanced universe god in the third heaven. No breakthroughs yet. Maybe I should go to the 4 mystery lands for new inspiration. Jian Wushuang thought. Chapter 1376, 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack. Chapter 1376, 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack. Lineage of Star controlled 4 mystery lands and 9 shrines. The 9 shrines were only chances, whilst the 4 mystery lands were chances accompanied with danger. It was in a huge cave dwelling that was formed with special crystals. Jian Wushuang, you just got to Lineage of Star not long ago and you're not that strong. If you were to go to the 4 mystery lands, wouldn't it be too early? Hall Master Yuan creased his eyebrows as he asked Jian Wushuang. My power has reached a bottleneck as of now. If I continue to cultivate in seclusion in Lineage of Star, there won't be much progress, Jian Wushuang replied. Which mystery land are you planning to go to? Hall Master Yuan asked. Tianling Mystery Land, Jian Wushuang replied. That's not too bad. Hall Master Yuan's tightly knitted eyebrows loosened slightly. The 4 mystery lands that Lineage of Star control contained hidden danger. According to the level of danger on the list, Tianling Mystery Land is at the last place. Although it is dangerous, the possibility of you surviving is quite high with your current power. Jian Wushuang, if I'm not mistaken, the reason you opted to go to Tianling Mystery Land is to improve your soul power, right? Yes, Jian Wushuang replied frankly. The 4 mystery lands had different characteristics and dangers. Tianling Mystery Land was best for experts who were good at consciousness and soul attacks. That was also the reason why Jian Wushuang opted for the Mystery Land. When you entered Lineage of Star, your soul power wasn't weak. Now that you have cultivated in Reset Palace for so long, your soul power has definitely improved tremendously. However, the way you use your soul power is too immature, Hall Master Yuan commented. Jian Wushuang nodded in silence. That's true, the way he used his soul power really was too immature. Under normal circumstances, he only knew to add soul attack into his sword principle and perform it together alongside his sword principle. Or, he could use the secret skill of Tian Yuan to perform a soul attack bluntly. However, the secret skill was merely an attack measure and not the fundamental method. Jian Wushuang, if you are not in a hurry, wait for another 2 years in the Lineage of Star. Then, you can depart again after 2 years, Hall Master Yuan smiled and replied. Another 2 years? But Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. You'll know by then, Hall Master Yuan smiled mysteriously but didn't clarify why. Although Jian Wushuang found it suspicious, he didn't really mind waiting for another 2 years. In the 2 years, he stayed in the Milky Way and constantly caught meta beasts to extract their meta strength. He was going to wander around the Mystery Land after all. He wouldn't know how long he would be gone for. It'd be good to prepare for meta strength to nourish his soul. 2 years later, Jian Wushuang came to the cave dwelling again. This time, he saw Hall Master Yuan and also Lei Chao. Jian Wushuang, this is for you. Lei Chao waved and threw a token to Jian Wushuang. This is it? Jian Wushuang took it subconsciously but he looked confused. It's a manipulation method of soul power. I spent time and effort to specially get this for you, Lei Chao said. Specially get it for me? Jian Wushuang was shocked. When I told you to wait for 2 years previously, I was asking you to wait for Lei Chao. Hall Master Yuan laughed. You had soul power, but you didn't know the manipulation method of the soul power. Isn't that a waste of your advantage? We at the Lineage of Star have a manipulation method of soul power, but it is rather profound. With your current level, it would be extremely difficult for you to enter. So, I sent Lei Chao to get the 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack for you. Jian Wushuang was at loss for words. But, are you overwhelmed? Hall Master Yuan smiled and asked. A little, Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Many ordinary disciples in Lineage of Star, including the disciples in Star Palace, relied on their capabilities to fight for resources in Lineage of Star. As for favors bestowed to the experts in Lineage of Star, unless you were a direct descendant of one's disciple, no one would grant the other any treasures or chances. But then Hall Master Yuan told Lei Chao to spend a few years' time to specially get him the 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack. Jian Wushuang was of course overwhelmed by such treatment. Actually, I did so because I wanted to be fair. Hall Master Yuan looked over. You're a universe god in the first heaven after all. But you have to pretend to be a universe god in the second heaven. You even have to participate in the battle as a universe god in the second heaven. To you, it is really unfair. So, now that I have provided you with this knack, it can be considered compensation. As for the battle that is going to happen in a few hundred years, it'll be depending on you and if you can maintain your identity as a disciple of Star Palace. Oh, I see. Jian Wushuang then understood the situation. I have passed you the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. Bring it back and study it. After you're prepared, head over to Tianling Mystery Land. Besides, whenever disciples of Star Palace wander in the 4 mystery lands, they will be assigned with a task. Same goes to you. The task in Tianling Mystery Land is for you to collect Tianling crystals. Hall Master Yuan continued. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary disciple in lineage of star at the level of universe god in the second heaven has to collect 3 Tianling crystals. And you're a disciple of Star Palace, so the difficulty of the task shall be higher. You have to collect 10 Tianling crystals to be considered to have completed your task. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. He had heard that everyone who wandered the 4 mystery lands would be assigned a task, so he was mentally prepared. Go ahead. Hall Master waved his hand and Jian Wushuang left. After Jian Wushuang left, he wasn't in a hurry to get to Tianling Mystery Land but returned to Sword Star. He started studying the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. 5-beast soul manipulation knack developed and evolved soul power into 5 beasts. It then formed a balance to fight fiercely with the opponent. Such an interesting method. Jian Wushuang had merely studied it for a while, but he could see why the method was so amazing. Jian Wushuang, the 5-beast soul manipulation knack is just a fundamental method of how to use soul power. It's not that precious. It is even far from the secret skill of Tian Yuan that you've gotten. However, the secret skill of Tian Yuan is a secret skill. So, it wouldn't be that easy to be carried out. But this fundamental method of using soul power is what you are lacking right now, King of Venomous Worms said. Go ahead and study for a few days on your own. After you master the simple way to use your soul power, head over to Tian Yuan Mystery Land for practical training. Then, you'll be able to familiarize yourself with the method. I know, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He stayed in Sword Star for a month. After a month, when he understood the 5-beast soul manipulation knack to a certain level, he got ready to head over to Tianling Mystery Land. Chapter 1377, Tianling Mystery Land. Chapter 1377, Tianling Mystery Land. Tianling Mystery Land was one of the 4 mystery lands of the lineage of Star, but the wormhole for entering the land was outside the base of the lineage of Star, in a place called Cloud Island. The Cloud Island was the biggest wormhole and it connected to the most places in Starland. It provided access to all parts of the Purple Moon Sanctuary and other cultivation places. The Cloud Island brought tremendous amounts of profits to the lineage of Star. Thousands of cultivators of different levels gathered there, including real gods and universe gods. Master, how long will you have to wait? We have been here for almost 1 year. A tall man in purple armor asked an elder with brown hair. The elder with brown hair was a real god and the other 5, including the young man, were universe gods. We should wait for longer for other cultivators to join us in the Crystal Land. Now we only have thousands of cultivators and only 3 real gods. But we still can't afford the price for the wormhole to the Crystal Land. We should be patient and wait. The elder sighed. The young man murmured, just a wormhole is so expensive. How greedy the lineage of Star is. Shut up. Do you know what you were talking about? The man also realized his offense. He looked around nervously and was relieved that nobody was paying attention to him. Be careful not to offend the lineage of Star. I can't save you if you get into trouble. By the way, you don't know the cost of opening a wormhole to the Crystal Land. It is extremely expensive. So the disciples all kept silent. Whoosh! At that moment, A figure flashed through the heavens and caught the attention of the brown-haired elder and his disciples. They saw that a man in a black robe had paid the money needed for opening the wormhole. He could pay the fee by himself? How extraordinary! Just then, whoosh! Almost 100 gods flew to palaces at the top of the Cloud Island. There were 4 real gods. All the rest were universe gods in the third heaven. The 4 real gods are deacons from the lineage of Star. 3 silver deacons and 1 golden deacon. What do they come for? Other cultivators were curious. They saw that a young man wearing blood-red robe and carrying a long sword had moved forward. All universe gods and even the 4 real gods bowed to the young man. Oh my God! Real gods bowed to a universe god in the second heaven. Who is the young man? Maybe he is the disciple in the Star Palace. All the cultivators in the Cloud Island felt shocked. So did the 5 disciples of the brown-haired elder. Why can a universe god in the second heaven like me be respected so much by those prestigious deacons in the lineage of Star? Jian Wushuang didn't care about others' attention and was surprised. He went toward the palaces following the 4 deacons. We will open the wormhole to the Tianling mystery land for you, the golden deacon said. Thank you. Those who could train inside the lineage of Star were core members, including disciples and masters. Besides them, there was another group of talents who lived in the margins, including universe gods in the third heaven who guarded the Cloud Island and the 4 deacons. So their status was lower than Jian Wushuang even though they were already real gods. Soon, the wormhole opened. Take the token with you. If you want to leave the Tianling mystery land, just smash the token. Okay. Jian Wushuang entered the wormhole. Now in the Tianling mystery land. Bang! A space twisted, and Jian Wushuang entered into the Tianling mystery land through it. When Jian Wushuang entered into the land, he looked down at the top. What a large forest! The forest was so boundless that Jian Wushuang couldn't detect its border with his soul power. But he felt the breath of organisms there, both humans and beasts. As far as I know, the lineage of Star always allows the Tianling mystery land to follow nature and develop without intervention. There are many talents here. Before I start to cultivate, it's better for me to get familiar with the surroundings. As for the Tianling crystal, I have to be patient and wait for opportunities. Then Jian Wushuang walked down through the boundless forest. He was now in the land as an outsider. Chapter 1378 Soul Master. Chapter 1378 Soul Master. In the ancient forest, the youth in the crimson robe who was carrying a long sword slowly moved forward. It smells of blood. It is quite pungent. It seems that there are always fights in this forest. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Swoosh! A crimson flowing light swept past the forest. Jian Wushuang stopped under a big tree, but his gaze was fixed in front of him. There was a 2-meter-tall figure at the open space before him. This should be the beast in Tianling Mystery Land, right? Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The beast before him was huge in size and it had 3 humongous heads. The eyes were bloodshot red and it looked extremely ferocious. When Jian Wushuang appeared, the 3-headed beast responded. There were 2 bloodshot red eyes fixed on Jian Wushuang. Then rumble. An extremely savage aura exploded from the beast and it charged towards Jian Wushuang like lightning. Jian Wushuang's eyes contracted but he didn't draw his sword. There was a strong soul power that surged out from his body. Suddenly, his soul power turned into a purple tiger and roared as it leaped forward. Bang! A loud thud and the 3-headed beast groaned in pain. After the huge body plundered for a while, it finally fell on the ground. A purple tiger formed by soul power nearly collapsed from the crash? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. Although he had killed the beast, he obviously wasn't happy with the attack earlier. Jian Wushuang, the usage of soul power requires continuous accumulation and practical training. You will familiarize with the method over time. You just mastered the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. It is inevitable that you will seem a little rusty in using it. It will get better after a few more times, King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang nodded and continued to move forward. In the mid-region of the forest, there happened to be a troop of over 10 people moving forward slowly. We will reach the Fiery Lion King's territory soon. Tread softly so that it won't sense you and escape. The man in the black shirt looked at his troop behind him. Everyone nodded simultaneously and looked extremely solemn. Sissy, the Fiery Lion King is very powerful. Our troop can barely kill it. We can't allocate another person to protect you. Don't expose yourself. Find a place to hide. Until we kill the Fiery Lion King, you can't come out. Understand? The man in black shirt looked at one person and said, The maiden in black that looked innocent nodded continuously, but her eyes were twinkling with excitement. Soon, they arrived at the territory of the Fiery Lion King. It's there. The man in the black shirt looked at the Fiery Lion King with the flaming red body, which was more than 3 meters tall and standing under a big tree. His eyes grew bright with the sight. Let's do it. The troop, which was well prepared and had came specifically for the Fiery Lion King, immediately took action without hesitation. Roar! A fight immediately took place. Be careful. Damn it, the Fiery Lion King became even stronger than before. Shit, it's running away. Let's go after it. The troops started a chase with the Fiery Lion King in the forest. Then, the direction where the Fiery Lion King was running towards had a figure in a crimson robe that was moving forward slowly. Jian Wushuang halted his footstep. His soul power was spread all the time. He naturally could feel the Fiery Lion King that was running towards his direction almost instantly. The Fiery Lion King was running towards where he was, and it suddenly appeared before him. Roar! Looking at the youth in crimson robe blocking his way, the Fiery Lion King let out a raging bellow and charged towards Jian Wushuang. Be careful. Move! The man in black and the people behind him who were chasing after the Fiery Lion King immediately shouted. Jian Wushuang didn't move an inch but looked at the Fiery Lion King charging towards himself as though he was dumbfounded by the sight. However, perceptive onlookers would see that there was a strange light twinkling his eyes. Virum! A shapeless force swept out and suddenly covered the body of the Fiery Lion King. The Fiery Lion King was originally charging towards Jian Wushuang in total madness and at lightning speed. However, the force that swept out led to the diminishment of its terrifying speed, and it was soon stopped entirely. Then, its dead body fell to the ground. What? The man in the black shirt and his troop ran over quickly and came beside the Fiery Lion King's dead body. Looking at the dead body on the ground, all of them were astonished. The Fiery Lion King is an extremely strong second-level beast which could be compared to an ordinary 2-star divine general. The person before us didn't even move and he killed the Fiery Lion King? Soul Master. And he's a very terrifying Soul Master. He's at least a peak 2-starred Soul Master. The man in the black shirt fixed his gaze at Jian Wushuang and he quickly bowed politely the very next moment. Shui Feng Troop Captain, Shui Feng. Greetings to the Soul Master. Thank you, Soul Master, for helping us to take care of the Fiery Lion King. Soul Master? Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. Before he departed, he found some information about Tianling Mystery Land. He also knew that there were 2 kinds of cultivators there. One was a warrior which was commonly seen, and the other was the Soul Master that the man in the black shirt mentioned. Soul Masters specialized in studying consciousness and soul. In Tianling Mystery Land, Soul Masters were rarer than warriors and of a much higher class. Whoever was Soul Master, even if he was just a 1-starred Soul Master, which was the lowest ranking, would be respectable. Your troop came specially for the Fiery Lion King? Jian Wushuang asked coldly. Yes, the man in black shirt, Shui Feng nodded. Our troop came across the Fiery Lion King once. Unfortunately, it happened too suddenly and we weren't prepared, so it escaped. It even nearly killed one of us. Hence, our troop intentionally came to take revenge. Oh, I see, Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. The dead body of the fiery Lion King should be quite valuable. Go ahead and take it. You're giving the dead body to us? Xue Feng and the other cultivators in the group were stunned, but they quickly understood. The dead body of a fiery Lion King is not unimportant, but to someone who is at least a peak 2-starred soul master, it shouldn't be anything, Xue Feng thought to himself. He didn't refuse and took the dead body of the fiery Lion King into his Qian Kuan ring directly. Then, the maiden in black that had been following at the back came over. Brother, the maiden in black came before Xue Feng and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" It was nothing. Luckily, this master lent us a hand. Xue Feng smiled and continued, "Sissy, quickly come and greet the soul master." Chapter 1379, Xue Feng's team got into trouble. Chapter 1379, Xue Feng's team got into trouble. Hello, Soul Master. The girl in black greeted Jian Wushuang with respect. This is my younger sister Xue Tong, also a Soul Master. Now she has the ability to be a level 1 Soul Master, although she hasn't been approved by the Soul Master sect. Xue Feng said by way of introduction. Jian Wushuang looked at the girl and didn't reply. Are you going back into the town, Master? Xue Feng asked. Jian Wushuang nodded. So are we. How about going together? Jian Wushuang couldn't feel any kind of enthusiasm in the eyes of Xue Feng and Xue Tong. Jian Wushuang knew why. They want me to teach Xue Tong soul power skills. Jian Wushuang thought. After all, the number of level 2 peak soul masters was limited in the whole Tianling mystery land. It was a valuable opportunity to learn from them. Okay. Jian Wushuang accepted the invitation. After all, he needed to learn more about the Tianling mystery land from Xue Feng. So they set out. Xue Tong sought any opportunity to ask Jian Wushuang about consciousness control. When she found Jian Wushuang was patient and kind, she felt freer and asked questions more frequently. But Jian Wushuang had mixed feelings. What he could teach Xue Tong was only from 5 beast soul manipulation knack. He knew the theory but didn't know how to exercise. What's more, Xue Yang was, in fact, even better at consciousness control than him. Actually, I should learn from Xue Tong, because soul masters like her learn from childhood. My advantage is just having the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. And in this process, the skills that Xue Tong had shown him had also benefited Jian Wushuang a lot. 5 days passed. Master Wushuang, we will be arriving at the town in 1 day. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had told them his name. But as Xue Feng was talking, something happened. Jian Wushuang felt alarmed. What happened, Brother Wushuang? Xue Tong asked. Some people were approaching us. Jian Wushuang said. Are they also exploring the forest? Not exactly, they are not coming for beasts. And that group of people soon appeared in front of them. They wore black robes and scary black masks, full of aggression. Xue Feng was nervous. They are from the Hungry Wolves clan. Others were also frightened. Hungry Wolves clan? Jian Wushuang was confused. They are a burglar clan killing cultivators. Over the past few hundred years, numerous people have died because of them. Now Xue Feng's group was in great trouble. They were not powerful enough to contain the clan. Sister, leave with Brother Wushuang. I will fight with them and buy you more time. Xue Feng told Xue Tong. Xue Tong felt unwilling to leave Xue Feng alone. As for the clan, among whom there was a man who wore a golden mask, they stood there looking at Xue Feng's group. Have you investigated their levels, Mei Er? The man in a golden mask asked. 9 people in total. 3 level 2 divine generals and another 5 are level 1. And the last one is not even a divine general, but it seems that she is a soul master. Her consciousness is not bad. Mei Er said. Obviously, the ranking setting in the Tianling mystery land was different from the eternal chaotic world. There were divine soldiers, divine generals and real gods. But the ranking was similar. For example, level 1 divine generals were equal to universe gods in the first heaven. As for soul masters, A level 1 soul master had a consciousness as strong as a universe god's in the first heavens. How weak they are. The man in a golden mask grinned. Kill them. So his subordinates started the attack. Seeing this, Shui Feng and other members were scared to death. Leave here. Shui Feng shouted and asked his teammates to leave. He rushed to the clan alone. But he was just a level 2 divine general, much weaker than those level 2 peak divine generals in front of them, let alone the level 3 divine general in the golden mask. Shui Feng had little hope of being able to stop them. Shui Feng is in danger. Jian Wushuang frowned. Then he generated his unimaginable soul power. The power transformed into a scarlet phoenix. The giant phoenix rushed at the clan. Chapter 1380 3-Starred Soul Master. Chapter 1380 3-Starred Soul Master. Screech. A shrill cry was heard across the universe. A crimson phoenix appeared before the Hungry Wolves clan before Shui Feng. Then, the feathers on the crimson phoenix turned into crimson flowing lights and merged into the Hungry Wolves clan members with terrifying speed. A dozen Hungry Wolves clan members paused in the void. Then, fumble. Almost half of them fell forward. What? This is a consciousness attack. It's Soul Master. They have Soul Master among them. The remaining Hungry Wolves clan members screamed, but didn't dare to move forward. The leader of the Hungry Wolves clan, the man in the gold mask, took one step back and looked at the person next to him. Mei, what's going on? I never expected that there would be 2 Soul Masters in this troop, and there's one Soul Master that I can't even detect. The person in the black robe named Mei lowered her voice and replied. However, although I can't detect his existence, his consciousness attack wasn't strong. His earlier technique was fierce, but it only killed a level 1 divine general. He didn't kill just level 2 divine generals though. It obviously meant that he wasn't too high of a level 2. He is at most a 2-starred soul master and he has just leveled up very recently. 2-starred soul master? You take care of him then, the man in gold mask said. No problem, the person in the black robe named Mei nodded and took a step forward. On the other side, Jian Wushuang, standing among Shui Feng's troop, looked rather cold. I am out of practice. The earlier technique collapsed on the way. Otherwise, there are not many from the Hungry Wolves clan who could have survived the technique earlier, Jian Wushuang thought in his head. His soul strength was near to the level of a peak universe god in the 3rd heaven. If he were to put his full power to play, even a universe god in the 3rd heaven wouldn't be able to resist. Even if it was a group attack, it wasn't something a 2nd-level divine general could withstand either. However, when the Crimson Phoenix swept out, it only killed those 1st-level 1 divine generals. Huh! Jian Wushuang lifted his head. He had already seen the person in the black robe named Mei walking towards him. I never expected that there would be a 2-starred soul master in your little troop. I wonder, what's the 2-starred soul master's name? Mei asked. Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang replied straight away. Jian Wushuang? Mei kept quiet for a while, but she shook her head after that. I know any 2-starred soul masters who are slightly famous, but I've never heard of you. It seems that you only just broke through and became a 2-starred soul master. How about this? I shall give you a chance to join the Hungry Wolves clan. This way you can save your own life. Jian Wushuang sneered at what she said. If you were to kneel down and bow before me to ask for mercy, I would let you live. You're asking for it. There was a flash of coolness in Mei's eyes. The very next moment, swoosh. A huge black shadow that was formed by consciousness suddenly charged towards Jian Wushuang. The black shadow was a huge cobra. Not only was the cobra huge in size, but it was also extremely flexible. I'm impressed. This person's manipulation of consciousness is much stronger than Shui Tong, Jian Wushuang complimented in silence, but his eyes suddenly turned cold. Hong. His soul power suddenly erupted. Then, Jian Wushuang had never performed 5-beast soul manipulation knack, but straightaway performed a soul constrain vigorously. Soul power that was close to a peak in the 3rd heaven was like a heavy hammer then suddenly slammed down onto the plundering cobra. It shattered the cobra into pieces and continued to move forward at Mei. How is this possible? There was an unprecedented terror in Mei's eyes below the black mask. Her eyes were wide open. Three-starred Soul Master. A shrill voice was heard from Mei, and her eyes grew dim. Swoosh! Mei's figure fell down. The sight shocked everyone on the scene, including the siblings, Shui Feng and Shui Tong. Three-starred Soul Master? Everyone couldn't help but mumble to themselves. In Tianling Land, if a two-starred Soul Master was rare, a three-starred Soul Master was even more hard to come by. In the nearby towns, there was definitely less than 5 three-starred Soul Masters. Such big figures would definitely make everyone around the region shiver in fear. Then, there was such existence before them. Damn it! The leader of the Hungry Wolves clan, the man in the gold mask, roared and glared at Jian Wushuang. In Tianyuan Land, Soul Masters were scary and they were definitely the strongest players within their own level. For instance, a two-starred Soul Master would be much stronger compared to a second-level Divine General. Then, a three-starred Soul Master was naturally much stronger than an ordinary level 3 Divine General. Let's go! Although the man in gold mask was upset, he could only leave. Under his command, the rest of the Hungry Wolves clan members let out a breath of relief and retreated. They were really not brave enough to fight against a three-starred Soul Master. However, just as the man in gold mask turned to leave, "You come as you wish and leave as you wish. Aren't you living a little too comfortably?" Jian Wushuang's cold voice rang out. Then, the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hands. Wah! Jian Wushuang moved and suddenly charged forward. Such speed! Shui Feng, Shui Tong and the people in their troop were terrified by the speed Jian Wushuang revealed. Such a speed was obviously faster than any of theirs. The man in the gold mask saw that Jian Wushuang moved forward directly. He wasn't angry, but actually happy instead. "Son, you're just a Soul Master and you dared to fight in close combat with me?" The man in the gold mask had a murderous intention that was flaring up. Three-starred Soul Master was scary indeed. However, such terror only existed when there was a certain distance between him and the opponent. Then, he could opt to fight with soul power. But then, Jian Wushuang charged towards him to fight in close combat recklessly. Wasn't he asking for death? On the Tianling Mystery Land, which Soul Master dared to fight close combat with a warrior? Die! The man in the gold mask immediately took out a huge axe and wielded it with strong strength. Jian Wushuang too erupted his power to its limit and performed a unique skill. Ghosting. Boundless sword lights swept out and overlapped at a terrifying speed. It was as though thousands of millions of sword lights had gathered in the same spot. The power of sword light then exploded. Dang! After a loud collision, a terrifying power swept through the surroundings. After another loud clash, the man in the gold mask staggered and fell backwards. Chapter 1381 Hatred. Chapter 1381 Hatred. How can be it possible? The man in the golden mask was shocked. So were other members in the Hungry Wolves clan and Shui Feng's group. Jian Wushuang not only was a level 3 Soul Master with formidable power, but had other formidable skills? He had defeated a 3-level Divine General. Seriously? No one could believe their eyes. Even Jian Wushuang was surprised to see that he was powerful enough to blast the man out with only one sword. But he soon realized why. Soul Masters were more powerful than Divine General of the same level, not because Soul Masters were geniuses, but because Divine Generals were relatively weak in the whole Tianling Mystery Land. Jian Wushuang knew that at the beginning of the battle. Although the man was a level 3 Divine General, equivalent to a universe god in the third heaven of the eternal chaotic world, but he was absolutely not as powerful as he was supposed to be. Jian Wushuang grinned. I think his divine power was no more than the level of a peak universe god in the second heaven. I guess he doesn't even know what secret skills are. Go! The gold-masked man chose to escape. But Jian Wushuang didn't give him any opportunity. He waved his sword as fast as a flash, using soul attack that the man couldn't resist at all. The sword stabbed through the man's throat. The man died. Seeing this, his members were scared to death and ran away as fast as they could. Jian Wushuang didn't follow them. Everything became peaceful again. Xue Feng and Xue Feng went to Jian Wushuang with fear. "Thank you, Master Wushuang." Xue Feng showed his respect. Other members except Xue Feng didn't even dare to look at him. Jian Wushuang was so formidable for them. "Are you okay?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Yes. Without your help, we couldn't escape from death." Xue Feng said gratefully, "All the cultivators will respect and admire you if they know you have killed a vicious gang for us. It's just a little help worth nothing." Jian Wushuang said, "Let's set out again." "Okay." Soon they went on with the journey. But on the journey, everyone was silent, continuously recalling what had happened. When they left the forest, Xue Tong, after a long time of consideration, said to Jian Wushuang, "Could I be your disciple? I can serve you for my life." Jian Wushuang felt surprised. Xue Feng also said sincerely, "My sister is gifted in consciousness and she works hard. We will be grateful if you could accept her." After all, few talents were as powerful as Jian Wushuang. And Xue Feng and Xue Tong didn't want to miss the chance. Jian Wushuang showed his hesitation. Xue Tong looked at Jian Wushuang with great eagerness. But Jian Wushuang said, "Sorry, I can't." He had to refuse. First, he would leave the Tianling mystery land soon. Second, and more importantly, he was not qualified to teach her. His control on consciousness was actually not as good as Xue Tong. So he had no other choices. Xue Tong felt disappointed. So was Xue Feng. But he continued to say, "Or, could you please introduce another soul master to us?" Jian Wushuang became unhappy about Xue Feng's requirement. Even Xue Tong was annoyed by her brother. He shouldn't ask for that much. After all, Jian Wushuang had saved them, but it was not his responsibility. "Sorry." Xue Feng realized he was imprudent. "Why do you want to find a master for you sister so urgently?" Jian Wushuang asked. Xue Feng paused for a while and said, "To be honest, it is because we have to take revenge for our parents, our family members, and all others in our tribe who were killed by our enemies. However, I lost the opportunity to cultivate to be a talent. So all the hopes fall on my sister. She is gifted in consciousness. If she can learn from a talent and be an excellent soul master, we could take revenge." Xue Feng clenched his hands. Jian Wushuang also saw the hatred in their eyes. The scene resonated Jian Wushuang. Since he had started to journey of cultivation, he also had been bearing such a hatred. Just like Xue Feng and Xue Tong. It was the hatred that led him to make such great progress. Chapter 1382, Soul Master Hall. Chapter 1382, Soul Master Hall. I will not take any disciples. However, if I come across any suitable soul master, I shall recommend him to you. Jian Wushuang said casually. "Thank you, master." Xue Feng and Xue Tong expressed their gratitude. "Oh yeah, in the town on the border of the forest, is there a soul master hall?" Jian Wushuang asked. After familiarizing himself with Xue Feng's troop in the past few days, Jian Wushuang found out that the place with the most soul masters gathering together was the Soul Master Hall. In Tianling land, many soul masters were required to get recognition from Soul Master Hall or to pass through the examination. Jian Wushuang wanted to familiarize himself with 5 beast soul manipulation knack, and he had to communicate more with other soul masters. Visiting the Soul Master Hall would be the best choice. In the nearby town, the only Soul Master Hall is in White Sun Town. If you want to head there, we can bring you over. It happens to be time for my sister to sit for a test in Soul Master Hall to become a real 1-starred soul master, Xue Feng said. "Let's go together then," Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Xue Feng's troop continued their journey together. After they exited the forest, it only took 1 day's time to arrive at White Sun Town. As the only town that had Soul Master Hall in the nearby towns, White Sun Town was rather busy. A lofty black castle was where the Soul Master Hall was located. Master Wushuang, that's Soul Master Hall. You can enter with my sister. We shall wait outside, Xuefeng said. Jian Wushuang nodded. Then he entered the black castle with Xue Tong. In the lobby of the castle, it was rather crowded. There were many soul masters that gathered together and chatting among themselves. At the same time, there were people queuing up in the middle of the lobby. These people came to become soul masters. Jian Wushuang looked at people in the long queue and he smiled. Master Wushuang, let's go in queue. Xue Tong obviously couldn't wait. Jian Wushuang and Xue Tong started waiting in the queue. Soon it was their turn. You go ahead first, Jian Wushuang said. Xue Tong nodded and went forward. In one breath, fill up the crystal with your consciousness. Then, you can consider yourself to have passed through fundamental recognition. Then, you will be qualified to join the one-starred Soul Master examination. The man in the black robe passed a purple crystal to Xue Tong. Xue Tong took a deep breath and covered the crystal with her consciousness in the next instance. In a while, the purple crystal was shimmering with purple brilliance. Not bad. The man in the black robe took out a token and passed it to Xue Tong. Take this token and wait by the side. There'll be someone to bring you to the examination later. Thanks. Xue Tong took the token and thanked him. She then walked to the side and waited. Next, the man in the black robe said lazily. Jian Wushuang walked forward. Same goes to you. Fill this crystal in one breath, the man in the black robe said coldly. Jian Wushuang took over the purple crystal and fiddled with it in his hands. He then put it down and said with a smile, Your crystal can only recognize one-starred soul masters, right? The man in the black robe was stunned and recalled her sloppy attitude earlier. He revealed a smile and asked, Unless you want to receive recognition of being a 2-starred soul master? 2-starred soul master? Jian Wushuang smiled. No, I want to receive recognition of a 3-starred soul master. 3-starred? The man in black robe stared. Everyone in the lobby looked at Jian Wushuang. 3-starred soul master was almost non-existent in the nearby towns of White Sun Town. Master, you want to receive recognition as a 3-starred soul master? The man in the black robe's voice was shivering. Why can't I? Jian Wushuang smiled and said, No, but the man in black robe was stuttering. Just then, what's going on? An old voice suddenly rang out and an elderly with white hair and a beard who looked like he had a divine demeanor walked forward slowly. Master He. Soul Master He. He was the only peak 2-starred soul master in White Sun Town. The moment he arrived in the lobby, everyone looked surprised and they looked like they revered him. Soul Master He? Xue Tong was shocked too. There was passion burning in her eyes. Before she met Jian Wushuang, the only soul master that she had heard of and talked about was Soul Master He. The elderly with white hair and beard walked to the middle of the lobby. The man in the black robe immediately bowed and said, Soul Master He, this is the man who wanted to receive recognition for being a 3-starred soul master. 3-starred? The elderly with white hair and beard suddenly contracted his pupils. 3-starred soul master was a level that he himself had yet to reach. Greetings from He Chang. I wonder what your name might be? Soul master acted rather humbly. Jian Wushuang said lightly. Soul master He was stunned and realized that he had never before heard Jian Wushuang's name. My friend, 3-starred soul master is an extremely high existence on Tianling land. In White Sun Town, there was never anyone who possessed the power to receive recognition for 3-starred soul master. However, I can get in touch with the headquarters of Soul Master Hall for them to send someone over. But before I sent a message, I must know if you possess the qualification to sit for the 3-starred soul master examination, Soul Master, he said. This will do, Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. Then, please reveal your consciousness, Soul Master, he said. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and activated his consciousness. Boundless soul power surged and formed into a purple tiger instantly, then charged out. Huh! Soul Master creased his eyebrows and there was suddenly a buzz before him. A long spear that was formed by consciousness appeared from nowhere. Hong! A long spear hit the purple tiger directly. The two were stunned for a second before they collapsed one after another. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and erupted a terrifying soul constrain the very next moment. Rumble! The soul power covered Soul Master he like a thunderbolt. Soul Master he was like a lone boat in a storm and he started shaking. Everyone in the lobby could feel the terrifying soul constrain from Jian Wushuang and they revealed faces of terror. Humph! After emitting a low humph, Soul Master he grew pale. Jian Wushuang then reined in his soul constrain and everything resumed tranquility. Such strong consciousness. Soul Master he let out a breath of relief and turned to look at Jian Wushuang. Your consciousness is really fierce and much stronger than any ordinary 3-starred Soul Master. If I'm not mistaken, your usage of consciousness was rather inexperienced. Chapter 1383 Guest. Chapter 1383 Guest. Soul Master he was the most famous Soul Master in White Sun Town, having a lot of experience. When he battled with Jian Wushuang, he felt that Jian Wushuang was not familiar with consciousness control. And Jian Wushuang also admitted, I have always stayed in the mountains to cultivate by myself and seldom battled with others. So I am not quite proficient. Master he smiled, now I get it. You have already reached a level 3 Soul Master in terms of your consciousness strength, but to be honest, there is still a way to go to pass the test. Is it about the controlling technique of consciousness? Jian Wushuang asked. Master nodded. As far as I know, a qualified level 3 Soul Master not only needs powerful enough consciousness strength, but also proficient techniques to use. I think you can try not until you further improve them. Jian Wushuang understood. Others in the hall felt sorry for Jian Wushuang. He just lost his chance because of his lack of proficiency. What a shame. Proficiency is only about practicing. But he does have the potential. People were discussing. Master he looked at Jian Wushuang. Now I have a suggestion. Tell me about it. Controlling consciousness proficiently needs practicing. In our Soul Master Temple, there are many excellent level 2 Soul Masters. So, if you like, you can stay here as our guest and communicate or battle with Soul Masters. After you improve your skills by practicing, I will ask judges from the headquarters to give you a test, okay? Master he said. Jian Wushuang nodded. Actually, he didn't care about the title but the opportunity to practice. Though the Soul Master were not of level 3, they were good enough for Jian Wushuang to practice with. Okay, so from now on you are our guest with the same status with me. Jian Wushuang accepted delightedly. By the way, I have brought a gifted girl with me. Could you please arrange someone to guide her? Jian Wushuang pointed at Xue Tong. Xue Tong's eyes were full of appreciation. Master he looked at Xue Tong and accepted the request. If she is talented enough, we will give her enough chances to unleash her potential. Thank you. Jian Wushuang smiled. Xue Tong appreciated him a lot. Then Jian Wushuang stayed in the Soul Master Temple in the White Sun Town. Though masters there had even weaker soul strength than Jian Wushuang, they definitely outperformed him in terms of controlling consciousness. They are indeed excellent in understanding and controlling consciousness. Jian Wushuang exclaimed, on the contrary, divine generals here are just mediocre. Actually, Tianling Mystery Land was quite different from the eternal chaotic world. As was the cultivation mechanism. The most important difference was that there were no god tests in Tianling Mystery Land. So divine generals here solely made a breakthrough by cultivating and by accumulating experience. Without the challenge of the god test, the divine generals here were far weaker than their equivalent in the eternal chaotic world. I have the 5 beast soul manipulation knack than few soul masters have here. What I need is the practice to unleash the potential power of the manipulation knack. That means I need to have battles with others. So soul masters here are good resources for me. So Jian Wushuang started to invite soul masters there with a challenge battle. In this way, he continued to improve the control skills of the manipulation knack. 30 years passed soon. In the Soul Master Temple, two Soul Masters were talking. Have you heard that Jian Wushuang defeated Soul Master Luo Xian yesterday? Of course, they both used the soul power strength of a normal level 2 Soul Master, but Jian Wushuang obviously did a better job in using the skills. But 30 years ago, how to control consciousness was new to Jian Wushuang. He has made such a great breakthrough in a short span of time. Actually, Luo Xian is still more proficient in controlling consciousness. But Jian Wushuang uses the skills in a more clever way, better than Luo Xian's spirit-driven skill. Indeed. Everyone was talking about Jian Wushuang's battle with Luo Xian. In an independent secret room of the Soul Master Temple, Jian Wushuang was generating his soul power. He drove the power with his consciousness, transforming the soul power into a bird, a rabbit, and then a ferocious beast. Everything transformed was as if real. Transforming soul into animals. Now I know how to use the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. Chapter 1384, Examination. Chapter 1384, Examination. The 5-beast soul manipulation knack was the manipulation method of soul power. The method was segregated into 4 levels: beginner, initial success, great achievement, completely satisfactory. After Jian Wushuang obtained the method, he simply made the method known and came to wander around Tianling Mystery Land. At first, he was really unfamiliar with the method and he couldn't put the power of the method to full play. It would even weaken his soul attack when he performed the method. So, he might as well not put the method to play. However, in the 30 years that he stayed in the Soul Master Hall in White Sun Town, he had been fighting with the other Soul Masters and learned from one another. From continuous practice of the method, he had mastered the method better and better. At that point, he was finally at the beginner stage of the method. Although he was just a beginner, his soul attack had improved tremendously, especially regarding his method of attack. Previously, it was monotonous and it was purely killing off souls. Now, there were many ways of soul attack. The current me, merely relying on soul power, should be able to fight face-to-face with an advanced universe god in the 3rd heaven, and the possibility of winning is not low. I am just a beginner. If I were to train myself to the great achievement stage, I must continue to familiarize myself with the method and improve myself to the great achievement stage before the battle to fight for my position as a disciple of Star Palace. Jian Wushuang held his fist tight. My friend Wushuang. The voice came in from outside the secret room. Jian Wushuang changed his expression and he immediately appeared outside the secret room. Soul Master He. Jian Wushuang revealed a smile and looked at Soul Master He before him. My friend, the people from the headquarters of Soul Master Hall has arrived, Soul Master He said. Oh! Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. A month earlier, Soul Master He noticed Jian Wushuang's improvement in the method of using consciousness. He was barely reaching the requirement of a 3-starred Soul Master. Hence, Soul Master He sent a message to the headquarters of Soul Master Hall and told them to send an expert over for Jian Wushuang to sit for the examination for recognition as 3-starred Soul Master. Under the guidance of Soul Master He, Jian Wushuang came to the lobby of Soul Master Hall. In the middle of the lobby, there were 2 figures. The 2 of them looked rather cold and the surrounding Soul Masters looked at them occasionally with faces of terror. 3-starred Soul Master? Jian Wushuang contracted his pupils. He already saw that the 2 of them were wearing robes with armbands that represented their identity as 3-starred Soul Masters. My friend, Wushuang, let me introduce you. These 2 are Master Feng Tao and Master Hui from the headquarters, Soul Master He said. Greetings, Jian Wushuang bowed politely. You are Jian Wushuang. Feng Tao and Hui looked at Jian Wushuang. As for Soul Master they totally ignored him. "Let's save the courtesy and go straight for the examination," the man in a flame-red robe, Feng Tao, said. "Sure," Jian Wushuang nodded. Feng Tao waved and took out a transparent crystal. "This is a crystal especially for examining the consciousness strength of a 3-starred Soul Master. You give it a try." Feng Tao passed the crystal to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it over. Then he surged tremendous soul power into the crystal without hesitation. Along with the surge of soul power, the transparent crystal immediately gave out a brilliant dark purple light. Dark purple? Feng Tao and Hui Yi were both surprised. Under a normal situation, as long as one could let the crystal give out purple light meant that he reached the level of consciousness strength of a 3-starred Soul Master. As for dark purple, it should be a peak 3-starred Soul Master's level. Peak 3-starred Soul Master? Feng Tao and Hui Yi looked at Jian Wushuang with a different gaze. After all, although they were 3-starred Soul Masters, they were merely beginner level. They were far from a peak 3-starred Soul Master. Jian Wushuang was surprised himself. After all, his consciousness strength was actually only like an advanced 3-starred that was very close to peak level but yet to reach peak 3-starred. The reason why the crystal gave out dark purple brilliance was that Jian Wushuang's consciousness had already transformed into soul power. "There shouldn't be any problem, right?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Of course there's no problem," Feng Tao and Hui immediately responded. Feng Tao replied humbly, "Your consciousness strength has reached the level of a peak 3-starred Soul Master. Theoretically, you could become a 3-starred Soul Master directly. However, according to the rules, you are required to show your manipulation method." "How should I show it?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Very simple. Both of us will use a normal 3-starred Soul Master's consciousness strength to fight against each other. Then Hui Yi and I will judge if you can become a 3-starred Soul Master," Feng Tao explained. "That's simple?" Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. "Let's start then." "Let us go somewhere spacious," Feng Tao said. They immediately moved to the outside of Soul Master Hall, which was a boundless training field. "Be careful," Feng Tao warned, then he spread his fierce consciousness the very next moment. Virum. A humongous object that was formed by consciousness suddenly appeared in the universe. It was a green giant that was more than 10 meters tall. He was holding a mace in his hand. With mere consciousness, he formed such a huge green giant? A 3-starred Soul Master is different after all, Jian Wushuang complimented. Bang! The green giant stomped his foot and the ground cracked and shattered while his figure turned into a huge green shadow and appeared before Jian Wushuang. Wow! There was a surge of green light. The mace in the green giant's hand descended with a strong force. Looking at the mace slamming down, Jian Wushuang didn't move an inch, but there was boundless soul power that surrounded him. Moo! An ancient and deep bellow reverberated. The soul power surrounding Jian Wushuang soared up and formed a huge black tortoise. The black tortoise wrapped around Jian Wushuang and the extremely solid shell blocked the mace. Bang! A loud bang formed a terrifying breeze and swept over the area. The cultivators who were near to the battleground were swept by the strong breeze. The terrifying power was far stronger than the 2 3-star divine generals' close combat. Although Soul Masters majored in consciousness, the items that derived from consciousness could explode in close combat with warriors and were similarly fierce. For instance, the green giant that was transformed from Feng Tao's consciousness, the wielded mace could be compared favorably with an advanced universe god in the 3rd heaven. After a heavy collision, the green giant let out a loud groan and he started waving the mace in his hand. Bang! 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 Every one of the continuous hits were heavy and forceful. The power hit the black tortoise shell and the shell grew much dimmer but had yet to shatter. Chapter 1385, Soul Island. Chapter 1385, Soul Island. My black tortoise's defense capability is strong and resilient. Jian Wushuang smiled. No matter how violent the attack was, Jian Wushuang's black tortoise stood still. Even when the tortoise was attacked and its halo became dimmer, it would soon recover with the flow of Jian Wushuang's soul power. Good defense. But Feng Tao continued to say, if you only keep defending without attacking, you can't pass the exam. Jian Wushuang smiled, okay, I will. He soon shouted, demonic dragon. Boom! Right then, a giant, ferocious dragon rushed into the battlefield as fast as a flash, roaring resoundingly as if it would shake the sky. Then it rushed to the green giant, caught him and bit its green throat. The green giant screeched and shivered. No matter how hard he tried, he failed to escape from the mouth of the demonic dragon. The demonic dragon was the craziest beast in the 5 beast soul manipulation knacks. The 5 beast soul manipulation knack was used to transform the great soul power into 5 exotic beasts. They were demonic dragon, purple tiger, crimson phoenix, black tortoise and divine ape. They were distinct from each other, and the demonic dragon was the most ferocious. Black tortoise was good at defense. At that moment, the green giant's neck was cut by the demonic dragon, so its head dissipated into nothing in the heaven. Seeing this, Feng Tao was shocked and his consciousness power exploded. Bang, bang, bang. Another 3 green giants appeared in the battlefield, even bigger than the previous one. But Jian Wushuang wasn't nervous. You have 3 green giants, but I have 3 demonic dragons. Boom! He generated his power to transform into another 2 murderous dark-colored demonic dragons. Now it was 3 demonic dragons versus 3 green giants. They continued the fierce battle. At last, all the 3 giants dissipated and only 1 demonic dragon was there. A very close competition. Feng Tao was exhausted and injured. He looked at Jian Wushuang and expressed his admiration. Excellent. Thank you. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had defeated Feng Tao. With the same consciousness strength as Feng Tao, Jian Wushuang had defeated him with the powerful 5 beast soul manipulation knack. Feng Tao asked Wu, who was at the margin of the battlefield, have you recorded the battle? Yes, the whole process is recorded. Good. We have done our jobs. Feng Tao smiled to Jian Wushuang. We will take the recording back to the headquarters and submit it to our leaders. We will inform you of the result. What a long procedure, Jian Wushuang frowned. Or you can go together with us to save time. Feng Tao said, resources there are far better than here. Jian Wushuang felt excited. Now he still needed to improve his skills to control the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. But the limited number of soul masters in the White Sun Town couldn't satisfy his need to practice. In the headquarters of the Soul Power Temple, things would be different. There would be top tribes and talents who Jian Wushuang could learn from. Why not? Jian Wushuang admitted. When? Feng Tao asked. Right now. He only had to inform Soul Master He and leave a message to Xue Feng and Xue Tong. After finishing all of it, Jian Wushuang headed to the headquarters of the Soul Power Temple. The headquarters of the Soul Power Temple was called the Soul Island. It was a large island with many talents. In the Soul Island, there were also those as prestigious as real gods in the Tianling Mystery Land. Though they were not as powerful as real gods in the lineage of Star. No Almighty had existed in the whole of Tianling Mystery Land. Jian Wushuang, here are our headquarters. Feng Tao and Hui took Jian Wushuang to the Soul Island. As soon as he arrived, Jian Wushuang soon felt a strong force. Consciousness attack. But soon he realized that the consciousness attack was too weak, meaning it was nothing compared with even the Tian Yuan Mystery Land in the Snow Kingdom, let alone the Reset Palace. Moreover, Jian Wushuang could also feel the powerful breath from many talents. Feng Tao said, the Soul Island was founded by the creator of our Soul Master Temple, real God Demonic Rain, who is also acknowledged as the most powerful master in the Tianling Mystery Land. The secret skill 18 Azura Hell that he created is still the most consciousness attack secret skill. Real God Demonic Rain? 18 Azura Hell? Jian Wushuang had no idea. It is also said that he has been to the world out of the Tianling mystery land. Feng Tao said. Jian Wushuang was surprised. So, real god demonic rain had traveled in the eternal chaotic world? Chapter 1386, Peak 3-Starred Soul Master. Chapter 1386, Peak 3-Starred Soul Master. Jian Wushuang, I will send your examination result to the higher-ups. Wait for a while here, Feng Tao said. All right, Jian Wushuang nodded. Feng Tao and Hui walked towards the huge, palatial buildings in the depth of Soul Island while Jian Wushuang stood there waiting. In the lofty palace, there were 3 figures seated on 3 thrones. The 3 figures had a thick aura and they were obviously experts at the real god level. Right in the middle of the palace, there was a mirror and it was, of course, showing the process of Jian Wushuang sitting for the examination. Dark purple brilliance. His consciousness strength has reached a peak 3-starred. There's no doubt about it. Black tortoise? The defense power of the black tortoise is terrifying. The demonic dragon too. This is crazy. Even Feng Tao's green giant was defeated so easily. His usage of consciousness is not too shabby. Only a short while passed before the 3 real gods made a decision. Go ahead and pass him this armband. From today onwards, he is one of the members of Soul Master Hall. One of the real god threw an armband to Feng Tao. Feng Tao took it and there was a flash of strange look. Then, Feng Tao and Hui immediately left. Jian Wushuang, congratulations. Feng Tao and Hui appeared before Jian Wushuang again. Then, Feng Tao passed the armband to Jian Wushuang. This is Peak 3-Starred Soul Master? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Your consciousness strength has reached the level of a Peak 3-Starred. Of course, you'll be a Peak 3-Starred Soul Master. Feng Tao smiled and revealed an envious expression. Although there were many Soul Masters on Soul Island, there aren't many who have reached the level Peak 3-Starred. Jian Wushuang kept quiet but he didn't really care. Oh yeah. Is it common for Soul Masters to fight against each other to learn from one another on Soul Island? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course, and it is rather common, Feng Tao smiled. Why? You want to fight against someone? I have been practicing in the mountains to improve my consciousness strength, but I have never once fought against someone. Now that I have the chance, of course, I'd like to learn from the other Soul Masters. Jian Wushuang smiled and replied. That is simple. There's a designated battleground on Soul Island. There are many Soul Masters that fight against each other there. Let me take you there. Feng Tao immediately brought Jian Wushuang to the battleground. Soul Island in a lofty palace. Bang! The door of a secret room suddenly opened and a vicious youth who was naked from the waist up and barefooted walked out of the secret room slowly. There were servants who waited outside the secret room moved forward to help the vicious youth with his robe. The seclusion this time took 1,800 years. It's been so long, the vicious youth smiled maliciously. However, although the time taken was longer, I finally performed that technique. If Mother were to know, she should be very happy. Master, you're dressed, the servant next to her spoke softly. The vicious youth looked at his robe and then walked out from his palace. I have not stretched for 1,800 years. Let's go take a look at the battleground first. The vicious youth walked towards the battleground in Soul Island directly. Soon, the vicious youth arrived at the battleground. He had just appeared and there were many Soul Masters that noticed him in the battleground. Mr. Bei Xiu. Greetings, Mr. Bei Xiu. Many Soul Masters, including some 3-starred Soul Masters, bowed humbly at the vicious youth. Even the 2 real gods nearby looked at the vicious youth with good intentions. The vicious youth, Bei Xiu, had become the focus of the place quietly. However, he only glanced at everyone around him casually and came to sit down in an inconspicuous place. His gaze was fixed on the battleground below. On the battleground, there were 4 of them fighting. It was 3 versus 1. Oh, Black Tortoise? Bei Xiu looked towards the youth in the crimson robe who was covered by the huge black tortoise. The youth in the crimson robe was wearing an armband of a peak 3-starred soul master, and his aura was fierce. The people around him were 3 beginner 3-starred soul masters. At that very moment, the 3 of them were hemming him in with their all. They performed all kinds of consciousness attacks, such as a huge saber derived from consciousness, a huge cobra, and also a single-eyed giant. The black tortoise around the youth in the crimson robe didn't move an inch but let the consciousness attack hit him. He wasn't affected at all. Not too shabby, Bei Xiu looked at the sight before him. Master Bei Xiu, this person is called Jian Wushuang. He just arrived at Soul Island yesterday. The moment he arrived, he chose to come to the battleground to fight. 4 days, he continuously fought 10 over battles. He wasn't defeated even once yet. Not long ago, even Master Jin Ong fought against him personally, but he didn't defeat him, a purple-dressed elderly who was next to Bei Xiu said. Jin Ong took action but he didn't defeat him? Bei Xiu raised his eyebrows. Jin Ong was a peak 3-starred soul master who was powerful. His power was about his level. Mainly because this boy's defense power was extremely strong. The black tortoise that he formed using his consciousness was unassailable. Although Master Jin Ong is much stronger than him in terms of attack, it was very difficult for him to break the black tortoise's defense. Then, the battle was left unsettled, the purple-dressed elderly said. It turned out that he relied on the shell. Bei Xiu then loosened his tightly knitted eyebrows. At that very moment, Jian Wushuang stopped defending and took action directly in the battleground below. Crane cry. A huge crimson phoenix flapped its wing and swept out. A terrifying aura formed a blast that spread across. Crimson phoenix? Bei Xiu lifted his eyebrows but remained unconcerned. However, after the crimson phoenix, there was another roar. Jian Wushuang used his soul power and transformed them into a few purple tigers. Purple tigers? Bei Xiu squinted his eyes. If it was merely black tortoise and crimson phoenix, he wouldn't care. But then, the appearance of purple tiger shocked him. Then it was followed by roar. There were 3 demonic dragons with murderous intentions that appeared on the battleground. Demonic dragon. The vicious youth, Bei Xiu, who was watching by the side of the battleground, suddenly stood up and he looked extremely surprised. Black tortoise, crimson phoenix, purple tiger, demonic dragon. There's one left. The last one left. The very last one should be divine ape. There was an unprecedented brightness in Bei Xiu's eyes. He fixed his gaze on Jian Wushuang on the battleground. He was looking forward to Jian Wushuang performing divine ape. It was a pity that even though the battle was extremely ferocious, he would never see Jian Wushuang perform divine ape. Unless it was because he wasn't powerful enough that he couldn't perform divine ape. That must be it. Black tortoise, crimson phoenix, purple tiger, demonic dragon. The 4 beasts are out and the method is rather similar. Even if it were to be a coincidence, it shouldn't be that similar. 5 beast soul manipulation knack. Mother talked about it before. She once saw the 5 beast soul manipulation knack in the Boundless Universe. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.